Chapter 887. Fang Yong wanted to make things clear for Bai Yiqiao. This era was harsh on women, but it was also for the sake of children. No one would say anything about their mother when they saw their children. Moreover, Fang Yong would never allow others to bully Bai Yiqiao. His wife was not a kitten or a puppy. Don't be afraid. With me here, he won't dare to do anything to you, Fang Yong said to Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao shivered and her whole body convulsed. She said, "The innocent is innocent. Don't worry about what others say." "What innocent is innocent?" Bai Yiqiao, don't pretend. You're afraid of exposing your affair, so you want to kill me and torture me. Seeing Bai Yiqiao's flustered appearance, Li Guzi said cruelly and happily. Bai Yiqiao's eyes blurred and she almost fainted. Fang Yong quickly supported Bai Yiqiao. Fang Yong didn't believe Li Guzi's words. "If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will kill you even if I have to risk my life." Li Guzi saw that Bai Yiqiao's face was distorted with fear. He was extremely happy. He was tied up by this bitch and couldn't move. Now it was Bai Yiqiao's turn. "She gave me money to be with her. She gave me a few hundred taels," Li Guzi said. "Now she's afraid of being exposed, so she wants to kill me." Nonsense, nonsense. Bai Yiqiao felt the strange gazes of the people around her. There were also men's eyes sweeping over her body, not avoiding it at all. Bai Yiqiao picked up the stick at the foot of the wall and smashed it on Li Guzi's head. Li Guzi shouted in horror, "Help, I'm going to kill you." Many people who were watching the show blocked in front of Li Guzi. Bai Yiqiao couldn't cause any threat or harm to Li Guzi at all. Li Guzi's courage grew. "It's true. Bai Yiqiao really gave me money to satisfy her. She also said that Fang Yong couldn't do it." Li Guzi opened his mouth and talked nonsense. Because he didn't have it down there, Li Guzi resented Bai Yiqiao and resented Fang Yong. Ning Shu, the male lead, couldn't do it. Wasn't it because he had a big tool and a good job that women couldn't bear it? If he didn't have the ability to conquer women in bed, how could he be the male lead? However, it was a fact that Bai Yiqiao was defiled by Li Guzi. This was something that Bai Yiqiao could not deny. Fang Yong's face couldn't be any darker. He felt that many people were looking down at him. Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her entire body trembled. She screamed, "Dogly, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to chop you into mincemeat." Fang Yong's face was indifferent. His voice was light and full of danger. "You have to pay for your nonsense. There's a limit to your nonsense. Qiao Qiao will give you a few hundred taels. She doesn't have that much money. To think that you are her husband. Don't you know that she is the boss of Auspicious House? Auspicious House makes so much money that a few hundred taels is nothing to her." Li Guzi laughed and pulled at the wound on his body. He immediately grimaced in pain. His face was so ugly that it was unbearable to look at. Fang Yong froze for a moment. He stiffly turned his head and looked at Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao threw away the stick in her hand and reached out to grab Fang Yong's arm. She anxiously explained, "I'm not the boss of Auspicious House. I just have a little share. Every month I get a few taels of silver. You also know that. Don't listen to Li Guzi's nonsense. He wants to blackmail us." At the end, Bai Yiqiao's voice was full of pleading. Fang Yong reluctantly raised the corner of his mouth and said to Li Guzi, "Don't destroy the feelings between us husband and wife. I also know that Qiao Qiao has a share in Auspicious House." Li Guzi curled his lips. "A few taels of silver? She gave me a few hundred taels, but she didn't even blink her eyes. Auspicious House has only been open for less than a year. How can she have so much money to give me?" Fang Yong tightly pursed his lips, making his face look a bit scary and daunting. "What proof do you have that Qiao Qiao gave you money and gave you so much money?" "The few hundred taels of silver I borrowed from the loan sharks were all paid back by Bai Yiqiao. If you don't believe me, you can ask the loan sharks." "Oh right, I still have the loan sharks receipt at home." Li Guzi grinned, revealing his yellow teeth. Although he was smiling, his expression was quite bitter. "Oh right, Bai Yiqiao has a mole on her chest." "Ugh." Bai Yiqiao covered her mouth and vomited. Tears flowed down her face as she screamed at Li Guzi. "You're talking nonsense, you're talking nonsense. Fang Yong, don't believe him. Maybe he peeked at me taking a bath and saw it." Bai Yiqiao cried as she begged Fang Yong, "Don't believe him." Fang Yong's expression was hard to describe. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. Not only does she have a mole on her chest, she also has one on her inner thigh. It's her right leg. Li Guzi laughed mischievously. When Bai Yiqiao heard this, she was so angry that she felt dizzy. She forced herself to hold on and scan the crowd. Countless disdainful gazes shot towards her. Bai Yiqiao saw Ning Shu in the crowd. Her expression was calm, but Bai Yiqiao felt that the other party was mocking her for losing Fang Yong. Who is it who ordered you to frame me? Bai Yiqiao roared at Li Guzi. It must be you, Chen Ermiai. It must be you. You resent me for telling you about the ginseng, so you found a rotten person like Li Guzi to slander me. Bai Yiqiao pointed at Ning Shu and shouted. Ning Shu was baffled. He pointed at his own face. What does it have to do with me? She was just a spectator. How did she get involved again? It's obvious that you have an affair with Li Guzi, and you're blaming me. The last time Li Guzi went to your house, he clearly had an appointment with you. Li Guzi was discovered, so he insisted that I had an appointment with Li Guzi, and that Li Guzi and I were in love with each other. Ning Shu's face was full of annoyance. What enmity do I have with you? Why do you have to sully my reputation like this? Bai Yiqiao, don't try to divert everyone's attention to my sister. Chun-Li stood in front of Ning Shu. Don't think that our Chen family is easy to bully. Bai Yiqiao was terrified and uneasy. She didn't know what to do. She could only beg Fang Yong over and over again. Fang Yong, believe me, I'm really innocent, I'm innocent. Fang Yong's expression was wooden. He stood there like a fool, motionless like a piece of wood. Li Guzi coughed to attract everyone's attention. Li Guzi said cruelly, I didn't make an appointment with Chen Ermiai. I made an appointment with Bai Yiqiao. Shut up, I'll kill you. Bai Yiqiao pounced on Li Guzi and fiercely beat him up, causing Li Guzi to howl in pain. A woman went up to pull Bai Yiqiao away. The wounds on Li Guzi's body were bleeding from Bai Yiqiao's vigorous beating. Moreover, his abdomen was pierced by a nail. In fact, his internal organs were injured. Li Guzi was able to speak because of Ning Shu's qi to repair his body. But now that he was violently beaten up by Bai Yiqiao, his internal organs were ruptured. Chapter 888. Li Guzi's injury suddenly worsened, and the nail hole in his abdomen began to bleed again. Li Guzi vomited blood. Li Guzi looked extremely panicked. As soon as he opened his mouth, black blood flowed out. His face was ashen. Li Guzi opened his eyes wide and stared at Bai Yiqiao. She gave me money. Li Guzi vomited blood. She asked me to defile Chen Ermiai, and said to give Chen Ermiai to be my wife. When Li Guzi spoke, he vomited blood, mixed with blood clots. His face became more and more blue, and the blood in his abdomen was like a spring. Seeing this scene, the people who hated Li Guzi couldn't help but look away. Li Guzi was really miserable now. Li Guzi wanted to open his mouth to ask for help, but more blood came out of his mouth. Li Guzi vomited twice, his body convulsed twice, and he died. When Bai Yiqiao heard Li Guzi's words, she was stunned for a moment. Her mind was blank, and she fell straight to the ground. Bai Yiqiao fell to the ground, and her skirt was gradually soaked in blood. Bai Yiqiao had a miscarriage. Yiqiao. Fang Yong looked hesitant and struggling, and his face flashed with rainbow colors. Bai Yiqiao was lying on the ground, and there was more and more blood on her skirt. Fang Yong. Fang Yong's mother leaned on her crutch and shouted to Fang Yong, "Get Yiqiao into the house." In the face of such a situation, Fang Yong's mother looked calm. Fang Yong reacted and picked up Bai Yiqiao on the ground. When he was about to call the doctor, there was the sound of gongs and drums. Everyone realized that today was the day when the government came to collect food. Why are all of you standing around here? Call out all the food and money from each family. This time, there were several bailiffs and scribes from the government. The onlookers immediately dispersed and went home to get money and food. Some people had no money and no food, so they sold their children to the government and sold their children. The sound of children crying could be heard everywhere. Ning Shu looked at the side and felt that it was really miserable. The people who were prosperous suffered, and the people who were dead suffered. He thought that this was already ridiculous, but the government actually accepted these children. Were they going to sell the children as slaves? Their identity documents had been handed over to the government by their parents. The sacrifice of 1 or 2 children in exchange for the survival of the entire family. The child who had been sold was terrified, crying and shouting. His parents left without looking back. Has the imperial court become so rotten? Openly buying and selling people, and then selling these children to the human trafficking market. Pluck the feathers from the goose that passes by, and soldiers pass by like combs. Fang Yong originally wanted to invite a doctor for Bai Yiqiao, but he was stopped by a bailiff. The bailiff said to Fang Yong, "I heard that you killed a tiger. The tiger skin is still there. The county magistrate has old cold legs and needs to use this tiger skin to cover them." Fang Yong's expression turned fierce for a moment. Ning Shu, who was not far away, heard this and was speechless. Fang Yong did not even try to find a reason. It was so hot in the summer. Why would he need a tiger pelt to cover his legs? He just wanted Fang Yong's tiger pelt. Now Fang Yong was known as the tiger-slaying hero. His fame spread far and wide. Everyone in the county government was coveting the tiger's pelt. Fang Yong had just suffered the biggest blow in his life. His wife had made him wear a green hat, and even the child in her belly might not be his. Fang Yong was a smart person. He thought about Bai Yiqiao's abnormality in this period of time. Even her pregnancy was not happy. Combined with what Li Guzi said, Fang Yong could think about the matter. Now Fang Yong had nowhere to vent his anger. The bailiff was greedy. 10 days ago he got 70 taels of silver. Now he wanted the tiger skin. That flawless tiger skin was worth at least 1,000 taels of silver. There were not many tigers, and it was not something that ordinary people could get. Fang Yong felt a burst of blood pressure rushing to his head. He clenched his fists tightly. "What's with your eyes? Filial piety to the county magistrate is your ancestors' merit. Give me the tiger skin quickly." The bailiff was a little scared by Fang Yong's eyes, but thinking that he was from the county government, he was not someone who dared to offend. He immediately straightened his back and asked Fang Yong for the tiger skin. Fang Yong said, "The tiger skin was left to my mother by this commoner." "Hey, you dare to oppose?" The bailiff opened his eyes wide. "Believe it or not, I will tell the county magistrate that you are disrespectful." Relying on the support of the imperial court and the county magistrate, the bailiff valiantly said to Fang Yong, "Hand over the tiger skin, or you will not be able to bear the consequences. Destroy the county magistrate, destroy the family magistrate." In ancient times, because the local officials had all kinds of power in civil affairs, taxation, justice, education, and so on, if the local officials felt that any people under their rule were not pleasing to the eye, they could find a reason to make him embarrassed, or even destroy his family. Not everyone could go to the capital to complain to the imperial court. What's more, the bureaucracy was dark, the world was chaotic, and riots were frequent everywhere. Who would care about a trivial matter? Now the bailiff was threatening Fang Yong to let him know. Fang Yong clenched his fists tightly as he looked at the subservient villagers, the terrified crying children, and his disheartened wife who was lying at home. Fang Yong could not suppress the indignation in his heart. He said coldly, "What if I don't give it to you? You're rebelling." The bailiff pulled out the knife at his waist and slashed at Fang Yong. Fang Yong dodged in an instant, and even snatched the knife from the bailiff. Holding the knife, Fang Yong could not control the anger in his heart. He directly used the knife to cut the bailiff's neck. Blood spurted out from the bailiff's neck. The bailiff's expression was one of shock and horror. He held his neck with both hands and fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. The commotion attracted the attention of the other bailiffs. They all pulled out their knives and surrounded Fang Yong. Fang Yong had killed the bailiff, causing the villagers to panic. The entire village would be implicated because of Fang Yong. Li Jing shouted at Fang Yong, "Fang Yong, put down the knife." Ning Shu only watched silently. Fang Yong was now on the path of rebelling against the imperial court. He would join the rebel army and achieve meteoric success in the future. This was Fang Yong's path. Fang Yong ignored him and stood at attention. He held the knife tightly as blood dripped down the blade and onto the ground. His expression was cold and filled with killing intent. He raised the knife and slashed at the bailiff. Fang Yong was a hunter and was agile. He also knew some martial arts. He was not someone these good-for-nothing bailiffs could deal with. Fang Yong ruthlessly killed all the bailiffs. He even killed the county government's secretary. After all, no one from the county government who came to collect grain was spared. Fang Yong's face was stained with blood. He said to the terrified children, "Go home." The children scattered in a hubbub. Some of the villagers were flustered and looked terrified. Li Jing shouted at Fang Yong, "What are you doing? How dare you kill the bailiff? If the higher-ups blame you, our village will suffer." Fang Yong wiped the blood off the back of the knife and said calmly, "I'll take responsibility for everything. Even if the county magistrate is in front of me, I'll still kill him. If that's the case, the imperial court might as well rebel. If we can't survive, we might as well do our best and wait for death." Chapter 889. Fang Yong killed all the bailiffs and calmed down his complicated emotions. Only then did he remember the unconscious Bai Yiqiao. Thinking of Bai Yiqiao, Fang Yong's expression was rather complicated. Then he went to find a doctor. When Fang Yong returned home, Bai Yiqiao's face was incomparably pale. The blood under her body was about to dye the entire bed wet. No one had boiled some hot water for her to wash. Fang Yong's mother sat by the bed. Her eyesight was not good, and it was not good for her to do anything. She vaguely saw Fang Yong return and asked, "Did you find the doctor?" The doctor took the pulse of the unconscious Bai Yiqiao, shook his head and said, "The child can't be saved." Fang Yong's expression was calm. As expected, with so much blood, the child definitely couldn't be saved. The doctor prescribed some medicine and left. Before leaving, he said, "The loss of blood has hurt the body. It will be difficult to have children in the future." Fang Yong pursed his lips and didn't say anything. In the room were Fang Yong and his mother, as well as the unconscious Bai Yiqiao on the bed. "Fang Yong, what do you want to do?" Fang Yong's mother asked Fang Yong. "Bai Yiqiao." Fang Yong pursed his lips tightly and told Fang Yong's mother about him killing the bailiffs. When Fang Yong's mother heard this, she stood up in fright and forced herself to calm down. "Mother, I want to join the army and join the rebellion army," Fang Yong said. "Right now the imperial court is tyrannical and extorting taxes. The world is in chaos, and people can't distinguish between black and white. Such an imperial court will fall sooner or later." "So you want to join the rebellion army?" Fang Yong's mother closed her eyes. "You can go. Pack your things and leave tonight." "But mother, if I leave, what will you do?" Fang Yong said. Fang Yong's mother said indifferently, "I'm an old woman. I've lived for so long and it's about time. If you're alive, the Fang family will have hope." "Those people won't do anything to an old woman like me," Fang Yong's mother said. Fang Yong wasn't someone who could watch his mother die. If he didn't kill the bailiffs, he could still secretly join the rebellion army. But he killed the bailiffs, so the government definitely wouldn't let him go. His family might suffer inhuman treatment. "Mother, let's go together," Fang Yong said calmly. "We both have to live." Fang Yong's mother didn't have any objections. "What about Bai Yiqiao?" Fang Yong looked at Bai Yiqiao with a complicated expression. "I used to think that I was climbing up to her, but I didn't think that she didn't really want to live with me. The child in her stomach is also someone else's. She's hiding a lot of things from me. In her heart, I'm not her husband." Fang Yong flatly said, "She can't bear the suffering of wandering around with me. I'll divorce her, and we'll have nothing to do with each other from now on." Fang Yong let out a long sigh and began to pack his things to leave the village. When Fang Yong was packing up his belongings, he found a box hidden in the cabinet. There were some banknotes in the box. Fang Yong just grinned and put the box back. When Bai Yiqiao woke up, she felt a pain in her stomach like a knife. Bai Yiqiao's face showed a relaxed and relieved expression. In this case, the child in her belly should be gone. Bai Yiqiao felt that her mouth was dry. She wanted to drink some water, but there was no one around her. She heard the sound of the door opening, and someone came in. Bai Yiqiao immediately adjusted the expression on her face. Her eyes were red and tears seemed to be dripping from her eyelids. It was very distressing to look at her. Fang Yong walked in and saw Bai Yiqiao's pitiful appearance. "Fang Yong!" Bai Yiqiao shouted at Fang Yong in a hoarse voice, I'm so thirsty. Can you give me a glass of water? Fang Yong pursed his lips and poured a cup of water from the teapot on the table. However, the water was already cold. Bai Yiqiao took a sip and her expression became even more gloomy. Bai Yiqiao had been a woman before. In her previous life, she had been a concubine. Naturally, she knew that she couldn't touch cold things. But now that Fang Yong had poured a cup of cold water for her, Bai Yiqiao felt that her lower body was sticky. When she opened her lower body, she saw that her skirt was wet with blood. She hadn't changed her clothes yet? Bai Yiqiao had a bad premonition in her heart. With Fang Yong's temperament, he would definitely ask about her well-being and comfort her with concern. However, he was indifferent and expressionless. He must have believed Li Guzi's words. Bai Yiqiao moved her body and the lochia flowed out. The hot and wet liquid soaked her thighs. Bai Yiqiao's face became even paler. She reached out and tugged at Fang Yong's sleeve. Fang Yong, don't be angry. I really didn't betray you. Fang Yong gave the divorce letter to Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao's pupils trembled. She took the divorce letter and looked at it. She said excitedly, Fang Yong, don't be like this. You believe me. You would rather believe Li Guzi, that scoundrel, than believe me. I am your wife. You must believe me. Seeing the divorce letter, Bai Yiqiao only felt that everything, reputation, husband, and future glory and wealth, was far away from her. What was the point of her rebirth? Fang Yong is Bai Yiqiao's biggest goal since her rebirth. She works hard to maintain her relationship with Fang Yong as husband and wife. Not to mention that Fang Yong will have a meteoric rise in the future. Fang Yong is a responsible man who will love people. He is worthy of a woman's trust. Fang Yong said, I killed the bailiff. In the future, I will be hunted down by the imperial court. You and I will be implicated. Let's separate like this. You can live a peaceful life. When Bai Yiqiao heard Fang Yong say that he killed the bailiff, she was stunned for a moment. She didn't care at all and said, I'm not afraid of suffering. Fang Yong, don't leave me. Knowing that Fang Yong would have a meteoric rise and kill the bailiff, then Fang Yong would join the army. Bai Yiqiao said to Fang Yong, there is some money in the box in the wardrobe. Take it. Seeing Bai Yiqiao like this, Fang Yong felt a little powerless and said, I can't tolerate betrayal. Fang Yong could tolerate everything, but he couldn't tolerate Bai Yiqiao's betrayal, and what Bai Yiqiao did in private. Li Guzi said that Bai Yiqiao spent money to hire people to destroy people's innocence. Fang Yong couldn't figure out why Bai Yiqiao wanted to deal with Chen Ermei. He felt that she was hostile to Chen Ermei, but where did this hostility come from? It was very inexplicable. Bai Yiqiao cried and said, Fang Yong, I really didn't betray you. You have to believe me. Bai Yiqiao kept saying that she wanted Fang Yong to believe her. Fang Yong rubbed his eyebrows and said, have a good rest. So you believe me? Fang Yong, thank you. Bai Yiqiao smiled through her tears. What I want is to be happy with you for the rest of my life. How can I be involved with a person like Li Guzi? Fang Yong didn't speak. In the middle of the night, Fang Yong left the divorce letter on the table and left with his mother in the dark. Chapter 890. The next morning, when Bai Yiqiao woke up, the courtyard was quiet. There was no movement at all. She turned over with difficulty and saw the divorce letter on the table. Bai Yiqiao had a bad premonition in her heart. She got up from the bed with difficulty. Her abdomen was in pain when she moved. Bai Yiqiao covered her stomach and got out of bed. She walked to the table and picked up the paper on the table. It was the divorce letter that Fang Yong gave her last night. Fang Yong put it away. She thought that Fang Yong had changed his mind, but now it appeared again. Bai Yiqiao opened the wardrobe. Fang Yong's clothes were gone. Bai Yiqiao hurriedly opened the door and shouted, Fang Yong, Fang Yong. Bai Yiqiao searched room by room, but she couldn't find Fang Yong. Even Fang Yong's mother was gone. Bai Yiqiao sat on the ground in a daze. She covered her mouth and cried. This is the house. This is the home of the traitor Fang Yong. The voice of someone talking came from outside the courtyard, followed by the sound of knocking on the door. The courtyard door was violently smashed open. More than a dozen yamen runners in uniform saw Bai Yiqiao squatting on the ground and asked, where did Fang Yong go? Bai Yiqiao was holding the divorce letter in her hand. When she heard the words of the Yamen runner, her expression was blank. Where did he go? Bai Yiqiao was angry, panicked and unworthy. She had paid so much for Fang Yong. Fang Yong threw down the divorce letter and disappeared. Search, the Yamen runner said directly. More than a dozen Yamen runners rummaged around the room. Finally, they found a few hundred taels of silver in Bai Yiqiao's box. More than a dozen Yamen runners were like injected with chicken blood. They didn't expect that this trip would have such a harvest. Bai Yiqiao now only felt disheartened. She didn't think about anything and didn't care about anything. Even if the banknotes were taken away, her expression was wooden. She thought that she had done so much for Fang Yong, but Fang Yong was merciless. He was so cruel that he only left a divorce letter and disappeared. This Fang Yong scolded her and beat her, making her feel more pain. The Yamen runner took the banknotes. The leader said, "This is the remnant of the traitor. Arrest her." The two Yamen runners took Bai Yiqiao away without pity. Then the Yamen runner called all the villagers around the village over and arrogantly gave the order to the county government. The gist of it was that the bailiff had died in this place, and that Li Zheng and the villagers had allowed the rebel thief Fang Yong to kill the bailiff. This was a serious crime of disrespecting one's superiors, and must be punished as a warning to others. Every household between the ages of 14 and 50 would be conscripted, and both men and women would be sent to repair the dams. Many places were flooded, and the embankments were washed away. When Ning Shu heard the news, he was dumbfounded. Fang Yong had escaped. He had escaped with his mother. Back then, he had said that he was a hero and that he would shoulder everything. But in the end, he had escaped. Each family had to send out 2 people, and the Chen family only had 4 people. If they sent out 2 people, 2 of them would have to leave. If Old Man Chen and Chen Li were recruited, then only she and Madame Li would be left in the family. Who would have thought that the higher-ups would be so angry that the entire village would suffer? Usually each family would only recruit 1 male, but now both men and women were being recruited, and 2 at that. Moreover, the place where the flood occurred was still very far from here. No one knew what would happen along the way. Although it wasn't as dangerous as fighting a war, it was incomparably tough. They used their blood and tears to build buildings and transport roads. Bones were buried in the ground. The bailiff said that they would come to recruit in 2 days, and then took Bai Yiqiao away. When they arrived at the county government, Bai Yiqiao was locked up in prison. The prison was dirty and messy, and the environment was very bad. In addition, Bai Yiqiao had just miscarried and her body was weak. Under such circumstances, she fell ill. It was Wen Yu who found a relationship to give Bai Yiqiao money to get her out. Wen Yu saw that Bai Yiqiao's chin was sharp and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Bai Yiqiao hugged Wen Yu and cried, "Fang Yong abandoned me." Wen Yu couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. She patted Bai Yiqiao's back and comforted her softly. "It's him who can't see your good side, really." Wen Yu sent several maidservants to take care of Bai Yiqiao carefully, but Bai Yiqiao had been depressed. Bai Yiqiao lamented her fate. Why was it that after being reborn, she still couldn't change her fate? In the end, it happened. Bai Yiqiao was afraid that fate would play tricks on people. Could it be that she and Fang Yong were destined to have no fate? After being reborn, she still had to give up her position to Chen Ermiai? Why? It was too unfair. No woman would willingly hand over her husband to another woman. Wen Yu had been by Bai Yiqiao's side, silently caring for Bai Yiqiao, but Bai Yiqiao was immersed in her own sadness. She was unwilling to give up and didn't get a return. Bai Yiqiao couldn't see anyone else at all. After being told that they were going to be recruited, the Chen family fell into a dilemma and pain. Alas, what should we do? Father Chen seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. Madame Li didn't say a word and silently wiped her tears. "Since it's a recruitment, I must go," Chen Li said. Ning Shu sighed in her heart. After doing so many tasks, this time she was actually going to be recruited. This was the first time in her life. "I'll go with my brother," Ning Shu said. She already had a plan in her heart. "The 2 children are not by my side," Madame Li suddenly cried. Father Chen's face trembled and his eyes were red. He bit his cheeks tightly and didn't speak. Mother, sew 2 men's clothes for me. It's inconvenient to wear a skirt. Ning Shu said to Madame Li. Madame Li wiped her tears and took out a needle, thread, and cloth to make clothes for Ning Shu. She didn't even measure Ning Shu's body, and began to make clothes. It's too rushed. If I had known earlier, I would have made 2 pairs of shoes for you and your brother. Madame Li threaded the needle, and kept wiping her tears. Father Chen bit his cheeks and said, I'll go with second sister. Chen-Li stays at home. Chen-Li hasn't given birth to the Chen family yet. Ning Shu. In this world, adults can't protect themselves. How can fragile babies survive? They are really obsessed with carrying on the family line. You're already so old. If you can't walk to the dam, you'll die of exhaustion on the road. Why are you going? Madame Li cried and complained. Chen-Li stood up. If I don't go, who will? Ning Shu began to pack up his things. He wrapped up the medicine he usually made and the dagger he exchanged to cut iron like mud. Since he couldn't avoid it, why not? Ning Shu looked at Chen-Li. Why not get Chen-Li into the rebel army and let the Chen family rise? Ning Shu secretly channeled Qi Jin into Chen-Li's body. The Qi Jin could slowly change Chen-Li's body. His eyes and ears would become sharper, and his body would become more agile. Ning Shu said to Chen-Li, Brother, I have a secret martial arts manual. Do you want to learn it? Chen-Li, second sister, stop fooling around. Chen-Li said, It would be great if we could go to war. They couldn't go to war just because they wanted to. There were requirements to recruit strong men. In their situation, they could only do manual labor. Ning Shu told Chen-Li the incantation. I saved a swordsman in town, and he told me about this secret manual. Chapter 891. Chen-Li didn't believe in any secret martial arts. Instead, Ning Shu said, I will protect you. Ning Shu saw that Chen-Li didn't believe in her, so she mobilized the Qi Jin in her body and jumped over the wall. Her movements were light and agile. Second sister. Chen-Li opened the door and looked at Ning Shu in shock. How did you do it? Didn't I say that I will practice the secret martial arts given by the chivalrous expert? And you want to practice it? Ning Shu patted the dust off her hands. Yes, yes. Ning Shu told Chen-Li the secret martial arts and how to practice it. Then she taught him step by step how to practice it. Madame Li stayed up late to make clothes for Ning Shu and Chen-Li. She cried as she sewed the clothes. Old man Chen also couldn't sleep at night. He smoked tobacco all night long. The house was filled with smoke, and no one could see clearly. 2 days later, Ning Shu wore the clothes that Madame Li sewed for her. They fit very well, and she tied the belt. Madame Li combed Ning Shu's hair, and tied it into a man's hairstyle. Ning Shu removed the tea leaf stud earring from her ear. Then she took out a package. Inside the package was the dry food that Madame Li had prepared for her and Chen-Li. It was a piece of snow-white wheat cake. The family of 4 arrived at the entrance of the village. At the entrance of the village, there were people from the county government registering for the recruitment. Every family was overwhelmed with grief. They didn't know when they would be able to return. They didn't know if they would be able to come back. Under the influence of this atmosphere, Madame Li also hugged Ning Shu and Chen-Li and cried. She sobbed. Ning Shu patted Madame Li's back and comforted her. Mother, don't worry. Brother and I will definitely come back alive to see you. My son. Madame Li hugged Ning Shu and Chen-Li and didn't let go. Old man Chen pulled Madame Li away and bit his cheek. His voice was choked with sobs. Ning Shu said, You must let your brother live. Ning Shu nodded. I know. Ning Shu did not feel any resentment in his heart. In this era, girls were not as important as men. After half a day of counting, the officials sent a group of soldiers to escort these people to their destination. Ning Shu looked back at the village entrance that was getting further and further away. He didn't know what his fate would be. He would rather be a dog in peace than a man in troubled times. Second sister, don't be afraid. With your brother here, you will be fine. Chen-Li saw Ning Shu lowering her head and thought that Ning Shu was afraid, so he quickly comforted her. Ning Shu smiled and changed the topic. How's your cultivation going? My body feels limp and numb. I get hungry quickly, Chen-Li said. This was the cells absorbing energy. What are you talking about? Hurry up and leave. One of the soldiers whipped him. The attitude of the soldiers was very bad. They whipped people at the slightest provocation. There was no lack of older people in the group. After being whipped, they couldn't get up. If they couldn't get up, the soldiers would whip them. Chun-Li wanted to stand up for them several times, but he was stopped by Ning Shu. Ning Shu and Chun-Li shook their heads. Now was not the time. They had just started their journey. Although everyone was angry with the soldiers, they could still bear it. The commoners were the most tolerant people. As long as they had enough food and clothes, their tolerance was amazing. They would not resist until they reached a dead end. As time passed, the soldiers became more and more daring. They beat and scolded people at the slightest provocation. They basically did not let people rest and rushed on without stopping. As long as they could not keep up with the group, they would be beaten until they were full of injuries. The weather was very hot now. Escorting the able-bodied men was a tough job. Basically, only those who were ostracized by their colleagues would do this kind of hard work. These soldiers were in a bad mood and vented their anger on these people. They would whip people at the slightest provocation. Even the honest Ning Shu had been whipped a few times. Seeing Ning Shu being whipped, Chun-Li was about to explode and hurt people. However, he was stopped by Ning Shu. He was only whipped a few times. When the time came, he would teach these people a lesson. There were also some people who could not bear it and wanted to run away. They were all caught and dragged behind the horses. They were dragged to death. However, these soldiers were still laughing arrogantly, deterring the dishonest people in the troop. Chun-Li was very strong. Ning Shu saw the muscles on his arms twitching a few times. He looked like he was about to kill someone. Ning Shu calculated the time when they reached the place where the dam was being repaired. She would not go and fix the dam. After walking for an unknown period of time, Ning Shu's shoes were worn out. Not only were the people in the group restless, the soldiers were also abnormally irritated. Every day, they were in charge of the food and drink of so many people. If these people wanted to go to the toilet, they had to follow them. These soldiers gradually focused their attention on the women in the group. They wanted to vent their anger on these women. When it was dark, the soldiers would set up camp, and they could only feed the mosquitoes outside. Ning Shu had medicine on her, so the mosquitoes did not pounce on her. "Brother, save me." A woman's shrill voice sounded. Ning Shu turned her head and saw two soldiers dragging a woman. Her younger brother looked young. His face was full of horror and fear, and he called out for his sister. Chun-Li suddenly stood up. Ning Shu did not stop Chun-Li this time. Counting the days, they had been out for half a month. They were very far from home. Moreover, they saw a lot of refugees on the way. It was obvious that they were not far from their destination. So many refugees did not give them work and food. They insisted on dragging men from thousands of miles away to fix the dam. Were these people crazy? Or was there some benefit in doing this? Ning Shu pulled Chun-Li. Chun-Li immediately said, "Sister, we can't tolerate it anymore. Now they are defiling women. Next time it might be your turn." Ning Shu smiled slightly. "Kill them all. Incite people to kill these soldiers." Chun-Li was shocked. "Sister." He only wanted to teach the soldiers a lesson. He did not expect his sister to be more ruthless than him. Ning Shu handed the dagger to Chun-Li and said, "Brother, if we don't resist, we will die. Once we reach the dam, we won't be able to survive. After killing these soldiers, we will meet up with the rebel army." Ning Shu said, "We have been out for some time. Our speed is not slow. We are probably a few hundred miles away from home." The information in ancient times was severely outdated. Even if something happened along the way, it would take a long time for it to be discovered. This side thought that they had reached the dam, while the people on the other side thought that they were still on the way. What they needed was time in between. Moreover, these people were worthless. If they were gone, they could recruit more. "Sister." Chun-Li's tanned face was full of struggle. His face was trembling violently. Chun-Li was sweating profusely. If he really did this, an unknown future lay in front of him. However, he was sure that he was walking on the edge of a cliff. "Don't you want to fight?" Ning Shu said. Chun-Li's body was tense like a bowstring that had been pulled to its limit. he said in a low voice. But this is rebellion. Ning Shu said. The current imperial court is like a tree that has been eaten by termites. No matter what, it cannot escape the fate of destruction. Now that order is in chaos, there can be no construction without destruction. It is time to overthrow and re-establish order. Chapter 892. Chun-Li was a true ancient person. He lived in a feudal society where the emperor was the sky, so he did not dare to rebel. Even if the soldiers went overboard, he only wanted to teach them a lesson. Chun-Li felt guilty when he actually rebelled. Ning Shu had experienced many worlds, so he was more indifferent. It was normal for history to change, and the new to replace the old was the rule of the heavens, the cycle of reincarnation. Brother, you are just taking advantage of the situation. It has nothing to do with rebelling. Ning Shu said. Chun-Li, don't try to scare me. While Chun-Li was hesitating, the woman who was caught by the soldier resisted violently. The soldier was very impatient. He pulled out his sword and stabbed it into the woman's abdomen, then kicked her away. The woman clutched her abdomen and fell to the ground. Blood flowed through the gaps of her fingers. Sister, sister. The younger brother stumbled in front of the woman. Sister, don't leave me. I'm scared. Sister. The soldier laughed wildly. He did not care about the dead woman on the ground. He pulled another woman and threatened. Serve me well, or you will end up like this person. The woman was in a daze. She panicked and asked the people around her for help. Save me. Ning Shu walked in front of the soldier. When the soldier saw Ning Shu, he immediately touched his chin and laughed. Why, you want to serve me in her place? Ning Shu smiled and kicked the soldier's crotch. He used a lot of force. The man who was kicked groaned. His eyes rolled and he fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth. The soldier's body twitched twice and he died. It was so painful. Chun-Li. The people around were stunned. The other soldiers were furious. Impudent, are you trying to rebel? Chun-Li raised the shiny dagger in his hand and shouted. Everyone, these ruthless officials are treating us like animals. They want to kill us and seize our lives. I'm afraid we will be killed by them before we reach the dam. Do you want to die like this? Women will be sullied by these animals. Impudent. The soldier pulled out his sword and wanted to kill Chun-Li. Chun-Li awkwardly dodged the attack, and then used the dagger to slit the soldier's neck. Blood spurted out. Chun-Li's face was somewhat pale. However, his hands were stained with blood and a different feeling welled up in his heart. Chun-Li said loudly. They are also human, they can also be killed. Give me back my sister's life. The young man pounced on the soldier. The chaos in the crowd was no longer something these soldiers could control. Along the way, everyone had accumulated too many emotions in their hearts. Even well-trained soldiers would mutiny and blow up the barracks, let alone the commoners who followed blindly. When some people resisted, the others followed suit. Coupled with the resentment in their hearts, they dealt heavy blows to these soldiers. In the end, a group of unarmed civilians actually killed more than 20 soldiers. Ning Shu just watched from the side. When these soldiers died, Ning Shu said, bury these people. We'll head north. The rebel army was heading in this direction. In the end, they crawled like a snail until they broke through the palace gates. When these people calmed down and realized what they had done, they were all scared out of their wits. Chun-Li said, let's meet up with the rebel army. We won't be able to go back. If we go back, we'll implicate our families. Everyone did not know what to do. When they saw someone standing up to make the decision, they were terrified and uneasy. They could only accept it. Everyone worked together to bury the soldiers. Ning Shu used soil to cover the bloodstains on the ground. It was dark now. Everyone sat on the ground with terrified expressions. Some people were crying softly. Chun-Li wiped the blood off the dagger and returned it to Ning Shu. Where did you get this? I bought it. I ran to town when I had nothing to do and bought it for self-defense. Ning Shu said. Brother, keep it. Chun-Li shook his head. I have the soldiers' sabers. Chun-Li collected the sabers of the soldiers and distributed the dry rations of the soldiers and soldiers. After working for a while, Chun-Li sat beside Ning Shu. He pursed his lips and said, "Sister, must we meet up with the rebel army?" Ningxu raised her eyebrows. "Can brother feed so many people?" Chun-Li instantly exclaimed with a helpless expression. Ningxu meant to bring these people to meet up with the rebel army. The siblings also had some bargaining chips. Some things could not be resisted. The leader of the rebel army was the future emperor. Even Fang Yong, the male lead, did not become the emperor. Of course, Fang Yong's background could not be ruled out. With Chun-Li's simple mind, of course, he did not understand the difficulties. Feeding a group of people was enough to make Chun-Li cry bitterly. When they reached the rebel army, there would be people to worry about these things. The next day, Ningxu and Chun-Li led the team north. Along the way, they did not attack any county yamen because a team like theirs did not have much fighting power. Someone in the team fell sick. Ningxu had no choice but to take out the medicine he had prepared beforehand. When they passed by the town, Ningxu took the money that old man Chen had given him to buy medicinal herbs. Now that it was a chaotic world, food and medicinal herbs were in high demand. They were very expensive and might not be available. Ningxu, who really had no money, ran to the door of a rich family to promote his jade face mask. Chun-Li wanted to rob the rich to help the poor. Ningxu shook his head. Once the authorities were alerted, they would all die. Their group was already very conspicuous. Chun-Li, who had no choice, actually led the team's strong men to carry the sandbags. Ningxu. Fuck, why was her mission so difficult? Chen Ermei married Fang Yong, and also fled for her life. Now she was still like this, stumbling along the way. Although it was difficult, at least there was no one to torture them. They could still get through it. Ningxu finally saw the fluttering flag. Although the flag was old, it was rustling in the wind, carrying an indescribable power. "We're here," Ningxu said happily. Chun-Li let out a heavy breath. This period of time could be said to be the most confused period of his life. From a person who only knew how to follow behind his father to farm, he had to worry about the entire team's livelihood and coordinate all kinds of sudden problems in the team. If the team was tired, he had to be responsible for the chicken blood and be careful of the instructor. If it wasn't for his sister by his side, Chun-Li felt that he couldn't suppress these people. Now that they had arrived at the rebel army's territory, Chun-Li immediately understood what his sister meant. After joining the rebel army, they would let others worry about these things. They would be responsible for fighting and sieging the city. Ningxu and Chun-Li sat on the backs of the two remaining horses. Ningxu patted the dust off his body, turned his head and said, "Cheer up. Now that we're here, our fate might change drastically." Everyone began to tidy up their clothes, tidy their hair, and straighten their chests to accept their fate. However, there was an unconcealable fear and uneasiness between their brows. If they had a choice, no one would be willing to live such an uncertain life. Chapter 893. They were almost begging for food all the way here. The rebel army was temporarily staying in a deserted village. There were 2 flags at the entrance of the village, which were very dazzling under the scorching sun. This village was not far from the town. If possible, they could attack the city at any time. Chun-Li said nervously, "Sister, will they accept us?" "They will. The more people there are, the more momentum they can build. Rebellion had to be done in a spurt of energy. A small fight would not be successful." "Who are you people?" Someone at the entrance of the village shouted at them. Chun-Li cupped his hands and shouted, "We are refugees. Because we killed soldiers, we are here to seek refuge with the general." The leader of the rebel army was a descendant of a general. Because his family was killed by a traitor, it happened to be a natural disaster, so the people gathered to revolt. "Wait here." That person ran into the village. Ningxu held the reins of his horse and stared at the entrance of the village. The group was quiet, and the atmosphere was heavy. Occasionally, there was the sound of horses snorting. Chun-Li's face was covered in sweat. His face was trembling, and he was very nervous. Not long after, people came out of the village, and there were quite a few of them. Ningxu narrowed his eyes and said to Chun-Li, "Brother, get off the horse. Let's go take a look." "You guys wait here. Second sister and I will go first," Chun-Li said to the people behind him. Ningxu and Chun-Li walked towards the group of people. When the two met, Chun-Li was so nervous that his hands and feet were shaking. When he turned his head and saw his sister's calm face, he could only take a deep breath to calm himself down. Chun-Li didn't know why his sister was so calm and collected. She didn't seem to have any trouble doing anything, unlike him who was in a flurry. Ningxu cupped his hands and Chun-Li hurriedly did the same. "Greetings, General Liu," Ningxu said. General Liu, the leader of the rebel army, asked curiously, "How do you know my surname is Liu? Who in the world doesn't know you?" Ningxu flattered. General Liu could not help but laugh as he shook his head. These words, "I'm afraid they're all calling me a traitor." He had a valiant appearance. Because he came from a general's family, his body was well built. He wore coarse hemp clothes and straw sandals. He didn't look like the supreme commander of an army. Ningxu shook his head. Who was she trying to impress by dressing like this? Sometimes if she overdid it, it would backfire. Do you want to show that you share the suffering of the people? Of course, Ningxu wouldn't say such a thing. General Liu, this is my brother Chun-Li. This team is led by my brother and this little girl. Ningxu introduced Chun-Li to General Liu. Chun-Li hurriedly cupped his hands. This humble one greets General Liu. Good, good. General Liu laughed heartily. From now on we'll be a family here. We don't need guests. We'll work together to survive in this chaotic world. Yes. Ningxu watched from the side. General Liu's expression was somewhat conflicted. His smile was mixed with worry. Clearly, he was worried about the problem of food and livelihood. Second sister, should I go call them over? Chun-Li asked Ningxu. Ningxu nodded and agreed. General Liu raised his eyebrows and said ambiguously, "You're in charge of this team?" Ningxu shook his head. "I'm basking in my brother's glory." General Liu only smiled and did not say anything. He turned his head and said to the person beside him, "Give them a place to live." "Yes, General." General Liu's guard said respectfully. Ningxu and Chun-Li led a group of people into the village. There were men and women, old and young in the village. These were the family members of the soldiers. When necessary, these family members were also a fighting force. In this chaotic world, being able to stay with family members was an extravagant hope. Being able to feed a family was even more difficult. With family members, they could be hostages, and they could make the soldiers unswervingly loyal. After all, he was born in a family of soldiers. He was quite good at guessing people's thoughts. The guard led Ningxu to the place where he lived. Chun-Li carefully wormed his way into being friends with the guard. Ningxu tugged at the corner of Chun-Li's clothes. Chun-Li turned his head to look at Ningxu. Ningxu shook his head. Chun-Li stopped talking. The guard glanced at Ningxu and said, "This is where you will live." This row of houses was relatively old, and there was trash everywhere. Ningxu even smelled the smell of toilets. There was also filth around. Clearly, it was the feces of some children. Chun-Li frowned. He wanted to ask the guard if there was a slightly better room. Chun-Li was somewhat unhappy. They had come a long way to seek refuge. At the entrance of the village, they said that they were family. But now they were given such a place to live. Chun-Li was just about to open his mouth when Ningxu stood in front of Chun-Li and said, "Thank you, sir." "You can just call me Guard Zhou," said Guard Zhou. "All right. Please help me thank the general for giving us a place to live," said Ningxu. Guard Zhou and Ningxu exchanged a few polite words before leaving. Once Guard Zhou left, Chun-Li asked, "Why can't we ask for a better place? We are new here. What qualifications do we have to ask for a better place? We don't have any merits. Moreover, the other party doesn't seem to trust us. They might even suspect that there are spies in our group," Ningxu said indifferently. "We are all poor commoners." "There are no spies," Chun-Li retorted. Ningxu looked around and said indifferently, "But others don't believe us." "Clean up the surroundings," Ningxu and the others said. "This is where we will settle down in the future. Our future is unknown. Perhaps we will have glory and wealth. Perhaps we will be buried in the battlefield. If anyone wants to leave now, I will not stop them." The nearly 200 people in the group looked at each other and discussed in low voices. No one wanted to leave because they had killed soldiers and were criminals of the imperial court. If they went out without food, they would die. All right. No one wants to leave. Clean up the rooms now, Ningxu said. The crowd dispersed. Ningxu picked up the hoe at the foot of the wall and dug a hole to bury the feces. There were flies everywhere. Ningxu took out some medicinal powder and sprinkled some in every room. Chunli led these people to work. Ningxu said to Chunli, I will look around. All right. Be careful. Bring the dagger with you, said Chunli. Ningxu nodded and went around to check the situation in the barracks. None of the people here wore armor. They were all dressed in coarse hemp clothes. Some of them were even naked, revealing their tanned arms. When they were not attacking the city, these people were lying in their homes or sitting under the shade of trees. They did not look like an army at all. However, it was understandable. After all, the military's physical training required a large amount of energy. In this place, food was scarce. They could not even fill their stomachs. Such a troop, carrying hoes and sickles, without horses or armor, was able to defeat the regular army of the imperial court. It was as if the gods were helping them. However, it also showed how rotten the imperial court was. Chapter 894. Ningxu carefully observed the surroundings and felt that General Lu's courage was not light. Not only did he have to feed the soldiers, he also had to feed the soldiers' families. Ningxu turned around and saw General Lu talking to someone. Ningxu tilted his head and suddenly laughed. What a coincidence, an acquaintance, Fangyong Semida. Fangyong was talking to General Lu when he felt someone looking at him. He glanced around and stopped. General Lu turned to look at Ningxu and said with a smile, This is someone who just joined the army today. Sister Chun. General Lu called out to Ningxu. Ningxu walked over and cupped his hands to General Lu. General Lu. Then he said to Fangyong, What a coincidence. After not seeing him for a while, Fangyong's murderous aura was strong. It was obvious that he had been on the battlefield and probably killed a lot of people. Fangyong's expression was surprised. He looked at Ningxu, who was dressed in men's clothing, and asked, Why are you here? Ningxu smiled. Well, after you left, the village was conscripted. Then we killed the soldiers on the way, and then we appeared here. Fangyong froze for a moment. I still implicated you? Ningxu nodded. That was true. You are people from the same village? General Lu was surprised. This is fate. Hee, I'm afraid it's an ill-fated relationship. Ningxu said a few words and turned to leave. He stopped someone and asked about Fangyong. Fangyong was already a little famous here. His martial arts were good and his archery skills were perfect. He already had some people under him. Ningxu replied with a no. Fangyong was starting to rise. Ningxu returned to the place where he lived and said to Chunli, How about we teach the peerless martial arts to other people? Maybe they will have a chance to survive on the battlefield. Brother, these people might be our Qin family's underlings. Ningxu whispered. Chunli's heart trembled. He vaguely felt something but was not sure. He nodded and said, I know. I will go teach them now. Focus on training young and strong laborers, Ningxu said. Ningxu was just about to check how many herbs he had left when General Lu's bodyguard Zhou came to Ningxu and told him that the general was looking for her. Ningxu put the things away and followed guard Zhou to see General Lu. General Lu also lived in a simple house. At this moment, General Lu was reading a book. When he saw someone enter the house, he put down the book in his hand. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, General Lu did not let guard Zhou go out. Ningxu cupped his hands in greeting and asked, What does General want from me? Ningxu consciously treated himself as a subordinate. General Lu said, There will be a siege in 5 days. You should join in as well. Ningxu said solemnly, This subordinate understands. He wanted to test their combat strength. You don't have to be so serious. General Lu chuckled. Ningxu's face was still stiff. The general is the leader of an army. There must be rules. Otherwise, how can the general lead an army? General Lu narrowed his eyes and suddenly said, You just came here. Do you have any complaints about this place? Ningxu shook his head. No. Don't be afraid. Just say what you want, General Lu said. Ningxu, then you won't be angry if I say it, right? Ningxu said. Just say what you want, General Lu said with a seemingly angry face. First, Ningxu looked General Lu up and down. His gaze stopped at the straw sandals that exposed his feet. Being stared at by a woman like this, General Lu shrunk his feet a little uncomfortably. He coughed and interrupted Ningxu's gaze. General, do you only have this set of clothes? Don't you have a pair of shoes that can cover your feet? Ningxu asked. I do. It's slightly better than this set of clothes. General Lu said a little embarrassedly. But everyone is dressed like this. I can't wear anything special. Ningxu was expressionless. He couldn't help but complain in his heart. At the end of the day, this person was still stuck in the style of a general. Loving his soldiers like his children was what a general should do. But he was now the leader of an army. There was no one above him to suppress him. He had to establish a supreme image, and not this image. General, everyone follows you. Other than filling their stomachs, they also have some ambition in their hearts. They want to be conferred titles, their wives and children, and protect their descendants. But you. Ningxu's gaze landed on General Lu's feet again. What ambition do you have for the people below you? Do they want to climb up and enjoy privileges? Special people have privileges. Even if you eat meat and the people below you eat chaff, no one will dare to say anything, Ningxu said. Generals and leaders wore special clothes. Other than being special, it was also to let their own people see them and command their own people. Even though they were conspicuous on the battlefield and easy to be hit by the enemy, they did things according to their status. Barefoot and with dust on their feet, they really didn't have any sense of dignity. Even if they walked among the masses, they shouldn't ruin themselves like this. Moreover, the masses didn't care at all. As long as they could fill their stomachs, it was fine. Sometimes, the masses didn't care about the tenderness doctrine. The masses weren't greedy. They ate and drank their fill, but they were also people who cared about milk. If they couldn't fill their stomachs, they would turn around and leave. At this time, it was useless to play the sentimental card. First respect to the clothes, then respect to the people. It had been like this since ancient times. Just like in the army, Shi and Chun-Li could ride horses because their contributions to the army had established their positions as leaders. General Lu was stunned for a moment. Finally, he said, I understand. You can leave. Ningxu cupped his hands. If there is anything wrong with what this subordinate has said, please forgive me, General. It's fine. General Lu waved his hand and let Ningxu leave. Ningxu returned to his residence. He pulled Chun-Li aside and said, General Lu is attacking the city in 5 days. We also want to participate. So soon? Chun-Li was stunned. Ningxu nodded. He was a little anxious. They didn't have any weapons in their hands. Moreover, General Lu didn't intend to give them any weapons. They had to pay for it themselves. How poor was the army? But they. Chun-Li pointed at the people who were cultivating crookedly. Ningxu also felt very anxious. Ningxu walked over and injected a bit of qi-jin into each person's body. Then he found a knife in the house. Chun-Li saw Ningxu holding a kitchen knife and asked, What are you going to do? Ningxu said, I can't go to the battlefield unarmed. I have to get some weapons. As Ningxu spoke, he stepped on the trunk beside the house and climbed up the tree. When he saw a suitable branch, he cut it down. Ningxu was like a monkey. He ran from tree to tree and cut the branches. When he was almost done, Ningxu asked the woman to make the branches the length of a spear. Then he sharpened one end. Unfortunately, there was no metal spearhead. Everyone come here. Ningxu called his subordinates. Now each of you hold a wooden stick and practice stabbing and stabbing. Ningxu only hoped to do his best to protect this team on the battlefield. Chapter 895. Ningxu held the wooden stick and stabbed it into the scarecrow's neck. He said, There's no need for any fancy moves. Just stab the neck and eyes. Stab wherever the vital parts are. Don't stab the chest. With the sternum protecting it, the wooden spear might get stuck. Ningxu said loudly and then gave the wooden spear in his hand to Chun-Li. Chun-Li held the wooden spear and bit his cheeks. The muscles on his face trembled as he stabbed the scarecrow. Ningxu watched these people train. He went into the house to get herbs. He would definitely be injured on the battlefield. After training for an entire afternoon, someone came to deliver food in the evening. It was a coarse bread mixed with yellow vegetable leaves. Then the bread was mixed with cold water. Ningxu ate the bread. It was so hard that he almost broke his teeth. Moreover, when he swallowed it, it was very painful. Ningxu hurriedly drank some water and swallowed the cornbread that was stuck in her throat. What kind of life is this? Why is it so difficult to turn the tide of life? After 2 days of such food, the people below were somewhat dissatisfied. They complained to Chun-Li. Why are we eating the worst? I heard that some people eat steamed buns and steamed buns. Chun-Li didn't know what to say. He looked at Ningxu. Ningxu said indifferently, that's because they have military achievements. They have been on the battlefield and killed enemies. It's normal for them to eat well. It's good that we can eat. On the battlefield, if you can survive, you will eat the same things, Ningxu said. Although the others were indignant, they couldn't say anything. Originally, the siege was supposed to take 5 days. Suddenly, on the 3rd day, the order was given to gather, saying that the siege was about to begin. Moreover, there was an extra bread in the morning, so it was to let people eat their fill. Isn't it 5 days? Chun-Li frowned and asked. Ningxu pursed his lips. He felt that General Lu didn't trust them. He changed the time just because he said so. Chun-Li brought out 2 horses and gave one to Ningxu. Then he flipped onto the horse's back. His waist was equipped with the saber worn by the soldiers, and he held a sharpened wooden stick in one hand. Chun-Li straightened his back. His body carried an expression of facing death calmly. Ningxu could see that Chun-Li was very nervous. The veins on the back of his hand that was holding the wooden stick were bulging. Before setting off, Ningxu asked the team to tidy up their appearance, tighten their belts, and comb their hair before heading to the entrance of the village. This time, Ningxu discussed with Chun-Li and decided to only bring 100 people. The younger ones, the older ones, and some women were left behind. Ningxu called out and headed towards the village entrance. There were many people gathered at the entrance of the village. When Ningxu saw the entrance, he almost choked on his saliva. Were they going to attack the city? Those who had hoes, and those who had rakes. All of them were farmers. Even the nervous Chun-Li was speechless when he saw this scene. He wasn't as nervous as before. He had always thought that his team was the worst, but now that he saw it, it was still okay. Although they were holding hoes and weren't wearing armor, their formation was still quite good. Ningxu urged his horse over and saluted General Lu with cupped fists. Today's General Lu made people's eyes light up. He was wearing a silver armor, and the red tassels on his helmet were like fire under the sun. The beard on his face was shaved clean. His face that used to be gray was now clean. He was born in a family of generals, and his facial features were handsome. He stood on the high platform, surrounded by fluttering flags, which made him look dignified and noble. Chun-Li's eyes were filled with respect and awe. Seeing General Lu like this, many people held their breaths. It was easier to create a noble image than to be close to the people. Moreover, it wasn't so tiring. All he had to do was act cool. People liked this even more. Ningxu turned his head and saw that the leaders of the army were all riding horses. Fang Yong was also riding a horse, and there was a group of soldiers behind him. Fang Yong turned his head and glanced at Ningxu and Chun-Li. Looking at the group behind Ningxu, there were many familiar faces. They were even people from the same village. Fang Yong didn't expect this brother and sister to pull the people from the village over. They had soldiers in their hands as soon as they arrived, unlike him, who had to climb up step by step. Fang Yong held the reins in one hand and a large bow in the other. He suddenly said, "Women can also go to the battlefield?" Chun-Li frowned. He didn't expect that the first person to question was an acquaintance from the village. He said, "Why can't women go to the battlefield? My sister's courage and strength don't lose to men." Chun-Li, "I'm just saying that swords and blades have no eyes on the battlefield. It's not safe for a woman to go. She should stay and manage the camp." Fang Yong said, "I don't want a woman in the army to be used by the enemy to attack and mock us." When Fang Yong said this, many people frowned. Since ancient times, power and the battlefield had always been a battle between men. There had never been a place for women. Fang Yong was just saying what most people were thinking. Chun-Li felt like he needed his sister by his side to help him. His sister was smarter than him, and this was her first time going to the battlefield. Chun-Li's heart felt weak. Chun-Li wanted to say something, but Ning-Shu said, "Carrying a spear and riding a horse to protect the country is a man's ambition and responsibility. But in this chaotic world, you and I are both people who have left the chaos. What's the difference? Who knows, you might not even see the sun tomorrow. You still have time to think about this." Ning-Shu almost rolled his eyes. Fang Yong squinted his eyes and didn't say anything. On the platform, General Lu said, "Let's go." The group slowly walked toward the city gate not far away. Ning-Shu and the others walked at the very back. They jogged to the city gate, which was shut tight. There were soldiers on the gate, ready for battle, and the sound of drums could be heard. This was the biggest city gate in Dazhou. If they broke through this gate, the entire group would have a place to rest. They would be able to replenish their food supplies. Everything would improve. Ning-Shu furrowed his brows. Attacking a city was much harder than defending it. They were so poor that they didn't even have a ladder to attack the city. Ning-Shu still didn't know how a group like that had succeeded. Did they use human lives to fill the gap? Ning-Shu squinted his eyes. He saw bows and arrows on the city wall, as well as a trebuchet. General Lu stood on an old war chariot. Guard Zhou stood beside him to protect him. General Zhou held a flag in his hand and waved it. For groups of people carried a giant wooden battering ram toward the city gate. Ning-Shu's eyelids jumped. They were really using human lives to fill the gap. But before they reached the city gate, they were hit by a rain of arrows. One person fell, and another took his place. The others protected the battering ram until they reached the city gate safely. In an instant, screams were heard everywhere. General Lu ordered Ning-Shu and Chun-Li to replace the person who had fallen to carry the wooden battering ram. Carrying the battering ram was like a live target. There was no way they could survive. General Lu had them carry the battering ram for the first time. Chapter 896. Sister. Chun-Li frowned. If this is really the case, their team might not be able to return today. Ning-Shu bit her lips. If they don't do something, they won't be able to stand. All of the great achievements were built with piles of bones. Fang Yong pulled the bowstring. His aim was very accurate. He killed the archers on the city wall in an instant. The bowstring in his hand was probably very heavy. Ning-Shu used her saber to cut the arrows that were shot at her. Many people in the team were injured. Thanks to the peerless martial arts, only a few of them were injured and died on the spot. With a clang, the wooden battering ram fell to the ground. Ning-Shu waved her hand and more than 10 people followed behind Ning-Shu. Ning-Shu grabbed the rope of the wooden battering ram and tied her body to her shoulder. She used her internal strength to carry the wooden battering ram towards the city gate. People who have practiced peerless martial arts are stronger than ordinary people. Ning-Shu's team walked in front, but they were under a lot of pressure. The enemy concentrated their firepower on them. Ning-Shu watched her men fall. Her heart was bleeding. Suddenly, she felt her hair stand on end. She turned her head and saw an arrow flying towards her face. Ning-Shu held her saber in her hand. She was about to use her saber to cut the arrow when another arrow suddenly flew over and shot it away. Ning-Shu did not hesitate. She used all her strength to rush towards the city gate. She heard the whistling sound of arrows flying past her ears. She heard the sound of arrows piercing into flesh. Ning-Shu bit her lips until they bled. She used all of her internal strength. She groaned from her throat and carried the wooden battering ram forward. The distance between them was like a natural chasm. Chun-Li, in order to protect her, was injured. "General, it seems that today's siege will be a little difficult," Zhou Wei said to General Lu. General Lu frowned. "If we continue in one spurt of energy, I'm afraid that the next time we come, we will be afraid. Now that we are in a killing frenzy, we don't know what fear is. Let's wait a little longer." Ning-Shu struggled to lift the wooden plank and pay attention to the arrows. With great difficulty, they finally reached the city gate. Ningshu exerted all his strength and rammed the gate with the others. The city gate was very sturdy. Ningshu ignored the wounds on his body and rammed the wooden battering ram against the city gate with everyone else. The rebounding force of the wooden battering ram caused Ningshu's internal organs to hurt. Fortunately, the city gate was finally opened. The moment the city gate was opened, the morale of the rebel army was immediately boosted. They cheered and rushed towards the city gate. As soon as the city gate was pushed open, many armored soldiers rushed out and killed the soldiers who didn't even have the time to be happy. Ningshu held a knife in his hand. He wasn't afraid of killing people, but he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to kill them. Ningshu held a wooden stick and stabbed it towards the opponent's eyes and throat. The person who was stabbed instantly stopped breathing. Seeing that the leader was calm, the others also held up wooden sticks to defend themselves. Although they were clumsy, they could still kill 1 or 2 people. When the city gate was opened, a large group of people with hoes and rakes surged over like a flood. Without any deliberate training, they used hoes and rakes to fight randomly, killing the old master with random punches. The troops surged into the city. How could they fight without any order? This chaos was probably only temporary. When there were enough resources, it would definitely be more than this. General Liu brought Ningshu, Chun-Li, Fangyong, and a few other commanders to the magistrate's office. General Liu held a silver spear in his hand and directly killed the soldiers. He slowly walked towards the fat official dressed in official clothes. The official was so frightened that he wet his pants and fell to the ground. He begged for mercy. "Don't kill me. I have a lot of money and food." General Liu said calmly, "Where is it?" The official's eyes darted around. General Liu raised his spear and the official immediately said, "In the pickled vegetable jar in the courtyard. It's buried underground." "Where's the food?" General Liu asked. "Food. I sold all the food to the grain merchants in the city," the official immediately said when he saw the spear pointed at him. The official thought that the other party would let him go, but in the next moment, General Liu pierced his body with his silver spear. "Drag him to the magistrate's office and bury him." General Liu pulled out his spear and wiped it clean. Next was to settle the casualties. Ningshu first treated Chun-Li's wounds. The arrowhead was still in the flesh. Ningshu used a dagger to pick out the arrowhead, then sprinkled medicinal powder on it and bandaged it. Chun-Li was in so much pain that his tanned face turned pale. Because he used too much strength, Ningshu's limbs and body were sore and weak. However, these soldiers were waiting for him to save their lives. Ningshu grabbed handfuls of medicinal powder and pressed it on their wounds. "You know medicine?" General Liu asked in surprise when he saw Ningshu treat people's wounds. Ningshu wiped the sweat on his head. "A little." "You should have told me earlier that you know medicine." "Ningshu, you're not going to let me carry the battering ram?" After all, they were all people who wanted to do great things. Their hearts were as hard as steel. General Liu might look gentle, but he wouldn't even blink if he sent people to their deaths. "What medicine do you need?" "I just found a batch of medicine from the magistrate's office." "You can tell me what you need." General Liu left in a hurry. After settling down, Ningshu was so tired that she couldn't even lift her hands. She said to Chun-Li, "Brother, I'm going to rest for a while." Ningshu leaned against the wall and closed her eyes to rest. When she woke up, Chun-Li was by her side. She was wearing Chun-Li's clothes. Ningshu moved her body. Her entire body was sore. Ningshu asked, "How many people died this time?" 30. Sigh. Chun-Li said. His face was pale because of the blood loss. "We can only train harder," Ningshu said. War was a meat grinder. Needless to say, it was cruel. "General Liu's team is going to stay in Dazhou for a while," Chun-Li said. "He said he wants to develop Dazhou as the capital." This was taking control of the land. He took control of Dazhou and then gradually took over the land around it. This was good. Carrying hoes and rakes all the time wouldn't go far. They had to be disciplined. "General Liu said that when we settle down he'll reward us," Chun-Li said. "Speaking of which, we're pretty lucky. We're in a big battle the moment we arrive." Ningshu understood. No wonder General Lu wanted them to do something as dangerous as carrying the battering ram to show their loyalty. General Lu and the others have already gone to hunt down the deserters, Chun-Li said. I can't go because I'm injured. If you don't want to go, then don't. It doesn't matter if the merit is small. There's still plenty of time. Ningxu didn't mind. They had just arrived and weren't familiar with the land. It wasn't good to be in the limelight. Dazhou was just a small place. There would be more battles in the future. The next morning, the people who went to hunt down the deserters returned. Breakfast was a big steamed bun with meat. The whole army ate that. Since leaving home, this was the first time Ningxu had eaten such good food. Eating it mixed with meat soup, the taste was extraordinarily good. Ningxu only ate one steamed bun and gave the other to Chun-Li. She had eaten the fasting pill, so she wasn't hungry at all. She ate a little symbolically. To be able to live without eating was practically a monster. You eat. Chun-Li didn't take it. He said, You've lost weight. Eat more. I'm full. You eat. Chapter 897. Chun-Li was a bit anxious. Every time he saw his sister eat like a cat, he couldn't help but say, Actually, you don't have to share yours with me. Oh, I'm not hungry. Ningxu stood up and prepared to walk around. This was Dazhou's military camp. There were all kinds of weapons and armor. Ningxu saw Fang Yong wiping his bow. She thought for a moment and walked over. Thank you for saving me. When the arrow had been shot toward her, only Fang Yong had been able to accurately deflect it. Fang Yong said, No need. Since we are from the same army, we will not leave you in the lurch. The atmosphere between Fang Yong and Ningxu was very awkward. In the past, the two families had disagreements. It was impossible to say that they didn't have a knot in their hearts. Ningxu thanked Fang Yong again and turned to leave. She would repay him for saving her life next time. General Lu took the army to the rich families in Dazhou to ask for food. He said that he wanted these people to sponsor him and support his work. If they didn't give it to him, then he would wipe out their families. General Lu only targeted the rich families. After the city fell, he didn't massacre the people in the city. First, he spoke to the grain merchants in Dazhou. If the merchants wanted to monopolize the market or raise the price of food, General Lu would create a river of blood. Then he would slowly collect the food. He had soldiers and people in his hands. He solved everything with violence. If you didn't give him money or food, he would beat you until you gave it. At first, the people of Dazhou were scared. Later, the rebel army didn't touch the normal people, so they became braver. General Lu was going to collect money. Ningxu urged Chun-Li to take the group with him. There were always some benefits to following behind. After conquering Dazhou, their days were much better. Although they didn't eat meat for every meal, they didn't eat the cornbread they used to eat. The coarse flour steamed buns paired with some meat-flavored broth were not bad. They were also given some weapons. These weapons were all from Dazhou's military camp. Ningxu processed the medicine General Lu sent over. Clearly, General Lu wanted to treat her as a free doctor. Ningxu made some medicine to stop bleeding and increase muscle growth. General Lu had shaved off all the wool that could be shaved off in Dazhou. Then he gathered a few leaders, including Ningxu, and said, I have decided to proclaim myself emperor. Chun-Li reflexively looked at Ningxu. Ningxu didn't say anything. After all, he was going to be the emperor sooner or later. One country, two emperors, China. He was afraid that the imperial court would be in an uproar. This was a provocation. If it were just ordinary people rioting, the imperial court would at most send troops to suppress them. But now that he was the emperor, it would be strange if the imperial court could tolerate it. Perhaps the imperial court would have already launched a frenzied counterattack, which they might not be able to withstand. When Ningxu saw that no one else was speaking, he naturally didn't say anything either. The bird that pokes its head out will be shot. Originally, the fact that he was sitting here as a woman had already caused a lot of criticism. When Chun-Li saw that Ningxu had his head lowered and was lost in thought, he shut his mouth and didn't say anything. For a moment, the whole room was quiet. General Lu said, If you have anything to say, you can say it. This subordinate agrees with the general calling himself the emperor. A man stood up and said. Then 2 more people stood up. If General Lu were to call himself the emperor, they would be rewarded. No matter what, it would be an official position that would bring honor to their ancestors. Fang Yong didn't say anything. His face was calm, and no one knew what his opinion was. Chun-Li frowned, thinking about the advantages and disadvantages of calling himself the emperor. Sister Chun, tell us. General Lu looked at Ningxu. Everyone immediately looked at Ningxu. Even Fang Yong couldn't help but look at Ningxu. He was a little surprised that General Lu would ask her. Ningxu, fuck, if I'm not careful, I'll offend people. If you have any ideas, you can say it. Let's see if you want to call yourself the emperor. General Lu said. Ningxu stood up and cupped his hands in greeting. This subordinate is actually in favor of proclaiming ourselves emperor. Proclaiming ourselves emperor can greatly boost the morale of our army. Everyone is eager to be conferred an official title. However, there is a problem. Can we fight against the regular army of the imperial court? If we call ourselves the emperor, the imperial court will definitely send more troops to wipe us out. Ningxu said. Should we take it slow, or go against the imperial court now? General Lu frowned. Ningxu gestured with his hand. Ningxu cupped his hands and sat down. The others also looked conflicted. Calling themselves the emperor had its advantages and disadvantages. If they weren't careful, their rebel army would be annihilated like fireworks. It would only be a line or 2 in the history books. General, this subordinate feels that there's no rush to call ourselves the emperor. When the general leads us to conquer more land and win more people's hearts, we'll follow the will of the heavens and raise our arms to cheer. It'll be even more glorious than now. Fang Yong stood up and said. General Lu thought about it and nodded. Let's put this matter aside for now. We'll talk about it when the time is right. After leaving the room, Ningxu let out a long sigh. Chun-Li and Ningxu said. Sister, you're amazing. I didn't know anything. Take it slow, Ningxu said. We'll attack and occupy Pingtown in 2 days. Do you want to go? Chun-Li and Ningxu asked. Chapter 898. How did he end up like this? Chun-Li asked. We went to attack Li County, but we didn't expect them to have powerful archers, the soldier said. Li County was comparable to Dazhou City. It wasn't easy for Fang Yong's men to conquer Li County, and he ended up like this. Fang Yong was too eager for quick success. Ningxu untied Fang Yong's clothes, took out some wine, and drenched the dagger. He put the powder aside and said to the others, hold him down. Sister, can you do it? Chun-Li asked. If something happens, Fang Yong's mother will blame us. We'll do whatever we can. If he really dies, we'll take over his men. Ningxu washed his hands with wine. Fang Yong's men were speechless. Ningxu was just saying. The main character wouldn't die. Ningxu held the dagger and cut the wound into a cross. Thanks to the sharp dagger, the wound was cut neatly. Fang Yong woke up from the pain. He opened his eyes and saw Ningxu. Ningxu grinned and said, bear with it. Ningxu traced the wound and found the place where the hook had pierced. He used the dagger to pry open the flesh. Fang Yong was in so much pain that his face turned pale. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. Hold it down. I'm going to pull it out. Ningxu held the arrow tightly and pulled with all his might. The arrow left Fang Yong's body. Fang Yong was in so much pain that he arched his body and spat out a mouthful of blood. It sprayed onto Ningxu's face. Ningxu wiped her face and hurriedly sprinkled medicinal powder on the wound. She used a cloth to tightly press on Fang Yong's wound. Brother, you guys go first. I'll catch up with you later, Ningxu said to Chun-Li. Okay. Ningxu pressed on Fang Yong's chest. Blood stained the cloth red. Ningxu changed the cloth. When the bleeding was not so serious, Ningxu began to thread the needle and suture Fang Yong's wound under the horrified gazes of the others. Fang Yong was quite strong-willed. He hadn't fainted yet. His tired eyes looked at Ningxu as if he was sewing clothes. He was speechless. When the stitching was done, Ningxu tied a knot, cut the thread with scissors, and wrapped the wound. Don't let the wound come into contact with water, and change the bandages frequently. Ningxu put away his tools, slung them over his shoulder, and mounted his horse to chase after Chun-Li. On the way, he caught up with Chun-Li. Chun-Li asked, "Is Fang Yong okay?" "I won't die." Ningxu wiped the blood off his face and asked, "Do you understand the situation in Pingtown?" "There isn't much to gain from it. I'm relatively poor," Chun-Li said. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to snatch this mission. It was just a demonstration to put Pingtown under Dazhou's jurisdiction. When they arrived at Pingtown, the gates were tightly shut. A group of people was watching them from the top of the city wall. Ningxu pulled on the reins and stared at the people on the city wall. "Are you the Revolutionary Army?" Someone on the city wall shouted loudly. Chun-Li's face was indifferent. "Yes. You have 15 minutes to open the gates. Otherwise, we will attack by force." The people on the city wall gathered again and said something. Then someone shouted, "We can open the gates, but you can't kill the people in the town." "The Revolutionary Army doesn't kill ordinary people," Chun-Li said. "What guarantee do you have?" Chun-Li said loudly, "I can guarantee what I say. The Revolutionary Army doesn't kill ordinary people at all. You can rest assured." Chun-Li's words were full of twists and turns. If they weren't ordinary people or evil people, they definitely wouldn't let them go. The people on the other side discussed for a long time. Finally, the gates opened with a creak. Chun-Li waved his hand and rode his horse through the gates. There was no joy on his face. If it could be taken down so easily, it meant it wasn't worth it. Ningxu smiled and said, "This is a good thing. You subdued the enemy without a fight. It means the people's hearts are with the Revolutionary Army. A single spark can start a prairie fire." Chun-Li said helplessly, "I'm afraid we won't get anything out of this. There are always rich and evil people everywhere. If we kill these people, we will get something out of it," Ningxu said. The mayor of Pingtown received Ningxu and his sister. Chun-Li saw the mayor's oily face, fat head, and big ears. He wore silk and satin, and he was so afraid of death that he opened the gates and surrendered. Chun-Li wanted to kill the mayor. Ningxu pulled Chun-Li back. Chun-Li gripped his long spear and said, "Sister, look at him. He must have taken a lot of the people's money. What's the point of keeping someone like that?" "Brother, since this mayor is willing to surrender and has been in charge of Pingtown for so long," Ningxu said, "he is the most suitable person to manage Pingtown. However, we need to make an example out of him and scare him. People like that would be loyal to you if you were strong enough. As long as you were strong enough, they wouldn't dare betray you. Pingtown was close to Dazhou, so he wouldn't dare have any ideas. The more people like the mayor of Pingtown, the easier it would be for them to attack the town." Chun-Li thought about it and called for a subordinate to go door to door and investigate the town's evil tyrants, rich and evil people, or people who were angry but didn't dare speak out. Chun-Li brought people over and killed them. He wanted his subordinates to see blood. He couldn't just come here for fun. While he was at it, he took all the money. After killing people, he had to announce their crimes to the world. The fat mayor almost wet himself when he saw the Chun siblings covered in blood. He didn't dare question Chun-Li and Ningxu. Didn't they say they weren't going to kill anyone? Where was the trust between people? The mayor raised his hand and swore that he was loyal to the rebel army. Then he took out all the good things in his house. There were about 2 boxes with jewelry and silver inside. Chun-Li smiled, revealing his white teeth. He almost scared the mayor to tears. Chun-Li shook the red tasseled long spear in his hand and said, "I hope the mayor can manage the town well. I hope every family can eat their fill. The mayor should know what to do." I know. Don't worry. Chun-Li and Ningxu took the food and silver they had plundered and left. When they returned to Dazhou, they would reward their subordinates according to their merits. "Sister, I will go alone next time," Chun-Li said. "You are a woman. It is too dangerous." Ningxu shook her head and said, "It's fine." With this condition, she naturally had to go to the battlefield. After the country was established, the woman would have to stay in the backyard and do embroidery to serve her husband. Usually, when a country was first established, it was the most tolerant time. They had to rely on this time to fight for some special privileges. Chun-Li didn't say anything. Naturally, He hoped that his sister would be by his side. One person's ideas were short, and the two of them could discuss it. It was pretty good. After packing up, Chun-Li went to report the situation to General Liu. When General Liu heard how Chun-Li had handled it, he nodded and said, "Well done. This was your sister's idea, right?" Chun-Li immediately smiled foolishly. He scratched his head and said, "It was my second sister's idea." "Unfortunately, your sister isn't a man," General Liu said with a bit of pity. Chapter 899. General Liu felt that this person called Chen Ermei was knowledgeable and had a deep heart. If she was a man, she would definitely enter the imperial court in the future. But as a woman, in this world dominated by men, she couldn't rely on her own strength to change anything. In the end, it was a waste of her talent. Chun-Li also sighed. He was a man, but he didn't have his sister's brain. "Your sister has medical skills. I heard that she saved Fang Yong. How is your sister's medical skills?" General Liu asked. Chun-Li said, "I don't know. She just reads medical books by herself." General Liu's expression was somewhat speechless. Was medical skills something that could be learned just by reading medical books? He waved his hand at Chun-Li, "Go down." Chun-Li cupped his hands and returned to the camp. Seeing Ning Shu checking the medicinal herbs, he walked over and asked, "Where did these medicinal herbs come from?" Ning Shu didn't raise his head and said, "Fang Yong sent someone to deliver them. He said it was to repay the kindness of saving his life." He didn't expect Fang Yong to plunder so many good things. "I thought you were angry with Fang Yong and wouldn't save him," Chun-Li said. After all, he caused such a ruckus in the village. Even Chun-Li had a knot in his heart for Fang Yong. What Bai Yiqiao did was quite vicious. "Last time when we attacked the city, he blocked an arrow for me. An eye for an eye," Ning Shu said without much care. Although there was a grudge, he didn't have to kill the other party. Besides, General Liu probably wouldn't let them go. There was no way to work with others in the army. Human relationships were so complicated. Chun-Li nodded. "You have a big heart. No wonder General Liu praised you." Ning Shu just grinned, his heart calm. Ning Shu obtained these medicinal herbs and prepared some medicine needed for the march. Dysentery or heat stroke, all kinds of small problems. Ever since Ning Shu saved Fang Yong and learned that Ning Shu was skilled in medicine, there would be people coming to Ning Shu almost every day to ask for medicine. Of course, they would not give it for free. Sometimes they would give some money, or some strange things. Ning Shu would accept all of them. Ning Shu gave Chun-Li 2 bottles of specially made Jinchuang ointment, which could quickly stop the bleeding. He told Chun-Li to give it to General Liu so that the siblings could show their faces in front of General Liu. As long as they had value, they could stay in the army. When there was nothing to do, Ning Shu would follow Chun-Li to attack the surrounding towns. Now that Chun-Li was the leader of 200 to 300 people, with Ning Shu by his side, things became more and more orderly. Every time they besieged a city, they would first persuade the enemy to surrender and take down the towns and villages with the least amount of losses. If they encountered a stubborn resistance, they could only attack them head-on. Every time they returned to the camp, they would be covered in blood. As more and more people in the team were able to cultivate Qijin, the team would become stronger and stronger. It didn't matter how many people there were, as long as there were enough of them to be able to fight 1 against 10. Moreover, to ensure his own power, General Liu would not let a leader control more than 500 soldiers. General Liu used Dajo's resources to start making armor and weapons, as well as raising war horses. Only then would their battle power be strong. Basically, the towns and villages that had been attacked near Dajo all tacitly accepted General Liu's rule. They did not listen to the imperial court and only recognized General Liu. If there was anyone who did not agree, they would be wiped out. Of course, in order to win over the hearts of the people, he would also give them all kinds of benefits. For example, he would not collect taxes. If the army needed money, he would take it from the corrupt officials and rich merchants. When the time was right, General Liu would take almost 100,000 people to attack the big cities next to Dajo and slowly expand their territory. General Liu was not in a hurry to proclaim himself emperor. Instead, he slowly attacked every inch of land, using battle to support battle. After all, in order to support so many people, he had to attack more land, kill the corrupt officials, and take money from the rich to support the army. Ningxu would go to every battle. Other than killing the enemy, he also had to carry a medicine box. If any important person in the army was injured, Ningxu would have to immediately treat them. Although it was tough, Ningxu clearly felt that his position in the army had increased. No one could guarantee that they would not be injured. War was so dangerous that even one's life could not be guaranteed, let alone being injured. However, Chunli was very conflicted. After a long time, he finally said to Ningxu, "Sister, you've seen so many men's bodies. How are you going to get married in the future?" Ningxu said, "With my achievements, even if I don't get married, no one will dare to say anything." "But women will still have to get married," Chunli said. "Don't tell me you want to be an old aunt?" Ningxu's lips twitched. "Given the current situation, who do you think I can marry?" They were in the middle of a war. Why talk about marriage? Chunli sighed. If a woman doesn't get married, she will be criticized. Criticized? Ningxu said calmly. A woman's status could not be changed. If she did not get married, men would not be able to wear her down. It was a chaotic world now. Who would care about the stupid law that said a 17-year-old woman's parents were guilty if she did not get married? She did not believe that with her achievements, she would not be able to choose her own life. Every time Chunli tried to reason with his sister, she would not listen. He changed the topic and said, "Sister, it's been more than 2 years. It will be 3 years soon. Can you send a letter home? Father and mother will be worried." Ningxu was dazed for a moment. She had already stayed in this world for so long. Ningxu thought for a moment. Let's wait a little longer. Why do we have to wait to write a letter? What's there to wait for? Chunli asked, puzzled. Wait until General Lu becomes emperor. We'll write a letter to father and mother after we receive the reward, Ningxu said. Chunli said, "Isn't the matter of becoming emperor temporarily postponed? Now that General Lu has 30% of the country in his hands, he can become emperor." Ningxu said, "Didn't you notice that there has been some movement recently?" Ningxu felt that she was already quite stupid, but she did not expect Chunli's brain to be even stupider than hers. General Lu had always wanted to become emperor, and now the time was ripe. Chunli pursed his lips. "I'm not a roundworm in General Lu's stomach. How would I know what he's thinking?" Chunli went out to train the soldiers. Fang Yong came over with the herbs and placed them on the table. Ningxu said, "Give me 10 bottles of injury medicine." Fang Yong pushed the herbs to Ningxu. Clearly, he wanted to use these herbs to exchange for them. Ningxu generously accepted the herbs and gave Fang Yong 10 bottles of Jinchuang ointment. Fang Yong accepted the Jinchuang ointment and looked at Ningxu. "Sister Chen, I think you are suitable to be a military doctor. Sometimes, saving people is more effective than killing people." Ningxu smiled. "Thank you for your suggestion. I will consider it." Fang Yong nodded and left with the ointment. After Fang Yong left, Ningxu rested her chin on her hand. How could she not know that? But she had to have military merits first. Chen Ermei was probably suitable to be a military doctor, but she could not accept looking at a man's body. Ningxu took out a notebook and ground an ink stick to record the ratio of the various medicinal powders. She also recorded the diseases that were most likely to be contracted during the war, how to treat them, and how to treat some wounds. Chapter 900. When there was nothing to do, Ningxu would record down all the medical knowledge she knew that was suitable for the ancient army. When she possessed a body, these skills would remain in the body of the original owner. As long as she practiced diligently, she would be able to use them for herself. Recently, there had been no battles, but the air was suffused with an oppressive and joyful atmosphere. Chunli ran in front of Ningxu and whispered, "Second sister, General Lu is really going to proclaim himself emperor. I heard that General Lu has already ordered the embroiderers to rush out the dragon robes and official uniforms." "That's to be expected." Ningxu did not even raise her head as she dipped her brush in ink. Chun-Li sat across from Ning Shu and said with some longing, "Second sister, what kind of official position is General Lu going to confer on us?" Ning Shu somewhat helplessly put down her brush and said, "No matter what position it is, it will all be the imperial favor. Big brother, in the future, be more careful with your words. I'd rather be silent than say too much. Think more in your heart." "Yes, the imperial favor is vast," Chun-Li said. "Since he's going to proclaim himself emperor and establish the title of the country, there will definitely be civil officials. When dealing with civil officials, you have to be careful," Ning Shu said. "Big brother, if you have nothing to do, read more books," Ning Shu said. Chun-Li's expression was rather helpless. As long as these corrupt civil officials were present, Ning Shu felt that she would have no chance of entering the imperial court. Her achievements would at most allow her to enjoy special privileges. It was not easy to achieve this. Not long after, General Lu announced the date of the coronation and had everyone prepare. Everyone began to get busy. They had to build a somewhat presentable imperial palace before proclaiming themselves emperor. In the meantime, General Lu led the army to attack another province. Ning Shu also went. Perhaps this was the last battle before proclamation, so everyone seemed to be on steroids. They did their best in the hopes of obtaining a high position and a generous salary. Morale was high, and in less than half a day, the city was taken. On one hand, the other side had no desire to fight. On the other hand, the people on the other side, stimulated by glory and wealth, howled and howled, wanting nothing more than to kill everyone by themselves. With great rewards, brave men were bound to emerge. On this day, the weather was clear. Banners flapped in the wind, drums beat, and countless soldiers lined up neatly below the platform. The air was solemn and dignified. Ning Shu and Chun-Li sat on horseback, with the Chun family army behind them. Fang Yong was beside Chun-Li, looking straight at the high platform. Thump, thump, thump. Amidst the drumming, General Lu appeared. He was wearing an emperor's crown and a black dragon robe embroidered with golden threads. He stood on top of the chariot like the Son of God. 8 horses pulled the chariot and slowly walked towards the high platform. General Lu walked up the red stairs step by step, steadily and slowly walking up to the high platform, looking down at the crowd. Ning Shu, who was sitting on the back of the horse, quickly got down. All the generals and soldiers knelt on the ground and shouted, "Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor!" His voice resounded through the sky, covering the sound of the drums. After the cheering stopped, there was only the sound of fluttering flags. General Lu shouted, "Everyone rise." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Guard Zhou, who was beside General Lu, opened the imperial edict and read, "I have experienced many hardships, fought with the officials for many years, and finally achieved great things. Among the people, the officials worked together to promote me, saying that I am virtuous and meritorious. The way of the emperor is consistent. Although I am blessed by the heavens, but today, under the joint efforts of the officials, I am also ashamed to accept the great deeds and the effort of moving mountains. I have many ambitions, but I want to achieve great things. Following the way of the heavens, on the 10th day of the 9th month of this year, I prayed to the ancestral temple, ascended the throne, built the Yuan army, and named the country Great Yen. Only with sincerity, with justice, with benevolence, with peace and prosperity, this is, long live the emperor, long live the emperor. Yen Kingdom." After a series of complicated ceremonies, it was time to confer meritorious service. Ning Shu saw Chun-Li's body tremble with excitement. Guard Zhou opened the imperial edict and read out the rewards. Ning Shu listened carefully and heard that Fang Yong's reward was General of the Guard, which was a general of the 3 duke rank. The reward was quite high. Fang Yong knelt and received the armor, shouting, "Long live the emperor." When it was Chun-Li's turn, he was awarded General of the East, one of the 4 expedition generals. He was a 3rd-grade general, 2 or 3 grades lower than Fang Yong. Fang Yong's meritorious service was indeed more than Chun-Li's, and his ability was outstanding. His archery was superb, and his conduct was outstanding. This was something that Ning Shu could not deny. It was already very good for Chun-Li to receive this reward. After all the generals were rewarded, it was Ning Shu's turn. Guard Zhou looked at Ningxu and read, "There is a girl, Sister Qin, who has outstanding military service, and is conferred the title of Ningyuan Army General." Ningxu knelt down and thanked. "The Emperor's grace is vast and mighty." Everyone looked at Ningxu. Chun-Li could not help but frown. Ningyuan Army General was a 5th-grade military rank. She had a lot of meritorious service, which was why she was given a 5th-grade military rank. Even Fang Yong could not help but raise his eyebrows. Her meritorious service was not limited to this. Ningxu sighed in his heart. If a woman wanted to receive the same reward as a man, she would have to pay twice, 5 times, countless times more than a man. In addition, Sister Qin will be given a red ink iron certificate. She will enjoy the salary of a princess. Guard Zhou continued. Ningxu was stunned for a moment, but with a smile on his face he shouted, "The Emperor's grace is vast and mighty." She was the only one present who received the red ink iron certificate. To a certain extent, this thing was a gold medal for avoiding death. As long as she did not seek death, her status was extraordinary. Ningxu received the red ink iron certificate. It was engraved with her deeds, but most of them were about her saving people. Ningxu lowered his head and quickly glanced at the Emperor on the high platform. He thought in his heart that the Emperor probably did not want him to go into battle to kill the enemy. Instead, he wanted him to do what a doctor should do. After establishing a country, he would not tolerate a woman messing up the court. He could give her preferential treatment, such as the salary of a princess. All kinds of thoughts flashed through Ningxu's mind as he tried to figure out what the Emperor was thinking. However, the name of the Qin family having 2 generals was quite pleasant to the ears. To a certain extent, the Yan Emperor acknowledged her meritorious service. However, he could not give her a high position. Ningxu's official position was actually empty. He did not need to go to court at all. When the court stabilized, Chun-Li and the others would go to war. Ningxu did not carry a spear or a horse anymore. Instead, he carried a medicine box and saved people. Ningxu took the initiative to tell the Yan Emperor that he wanted to train a few military doctors. Sometimes there would be too many injured people for him to handle. The Yan Emperor agreed immediately. He also said that if there were no suitable candidates, he could recommend a few. Ningxu could only say that there were already candidates. The people recommended by the Yan Emperor were all loyal to him. He did not know if the Yan Emperor would consider the relationship between master and disciple. Ningxu chose a few young men to learn medicine from him. However, the Yan Emperor recommended 2 young men. Ningxu could not chase them away, so he taught them together. Chapter 901. After teaching the basic things to these disciples, they could treat the basic wounds. Ningxu told the Yan Emperor that she missed her parents and wanted to go home. She didn't know how the 2 elders of the Qin family were doing. She didn't know when the letter would arrive. Going home was faster than writing a letter. The Yan Emperor agreed immediately. It wasn't a big deal, so he could give her special treatment. He even sent a team to escort Ningxu back. Ningxu saluted and said, "No need, I can go back myself. The front lines are tight right now. There's no need to waste manpower on something as trivial as this. Wealth and honor is like walking in the night. All your glory came from your own hard work. It's better to return to your hometown with wealth and honor," the Yan Emperor said. "Your status is different now. Naturally, you're not an ordinary person." What kind of status do what kind of things? Ningxu was speechless. Damn. Wasn't that what she said to the Yan Emperor before? Was she going to take revenge now? I was talking nonsense before. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. Ningxu half squatted and saluted. No matter, I won't take it to heart, the Yan Emperor said. Ningxu was speechless. Damn, it felt like this guy was holding a grudge. At this time 1 or 2 palace maids came in with a tray. On the tray was a luxurious red dress. On the 2 trays were all kinds of headwear and jewelry. If you're a woman, wear women's clothes back, the Yan Emperor said. Ningxu saluted. I thank the Emperor for his kindness. Ningxu told Chun-Li that she was going home. Chun-Li wanted to send his deputy to Ningxu, but Ningxu refused. The next day, Ning Shu brought a group of people back home in a grandiose manner. They rushed back to the town almost as quickly as they could. After not going home for a long time, Ning Shu felt a bit homesick. In the town, Ning Shu washed up and changed into women's clothes. A maid helped Ning Shu comb her hair, put on a hairpin, and put in a luxurious dangyao. With makeup on her face, she really did have a graceful and luxurious feeling. After leaving the tavern, Ning Shu got into a carriage. The carriage was covered with gauze, and there were golden bells hanging from the four corners. As the carriage moved along, the clear tinkling of the bells could be heard. Such a scene was rather conspicuous in the small town, and the streets were filled with people. Ning Shu casually scanned the crowd, and actually saw Bai Yiqiao and Wen Yu in the crowd. The two of them were very close to each other, and it seemed that their relationship was not shallow. Could it be that Bai Yiqiao was with Wen Yu? After not seeing each other for 3 years, Ning Shu felt that Bai Yiqiao was not happy. Her eyebrows were shrouded in a heavy cloud of worry. When the group arrived at the entrance of the village, Ning Shu got off the carriage and headed towards the Chen family. Madame Li was using a dustpan to toss the beans. Ning Shu's eyes were a little sore. He didn't know if it was his own or the original owner's emotions. He opened his mouth and called out to Li Shi, "Mother." Madame Li was stunned for a moment, and looked around suspiciously. Ning Shu approached Madame Li. "Mother, I am second sister." The dustpan in Madame Li's hand fell to the ground. "It's really second sister." "It's me. Old man, second sister is back." Madame Li turned around and ran into the house, crying and shouting at Father Chen. When Father Chen came out of the house and saw Ning Shu, he didn't dare to recognize him. With a trembling voice he said, "Second sister?" "Eh." Ning Shu crisply replied. Madame Li suddenly cried and wanted to hug Ning Shu, but when she saw Ning Shu's clothes, she retracted her hand. Ning Shu hugged Madame Li. Madame Li cried fiercely, but Father Chen was impatient, and told her to shut up. Ning Shu told him what happened when he left home. When Father Chen learned that Chen Li was a general, his thin and old face suddenly became red. "Then is your older brother married? He needs to have children to carry on the family line." Ning Shu. Madame Li listened to Ning Shu's story. While listening, she clasped her hands together, and kept praying for Bodhisattva's protection. There was still a team at the entrance of the village. Ning Shu took out the money, and Madame Li said that she would prepare delicious food for them. Father Chen lit incense for his ancestors, and was very happy. Ning Shu also saw Father Chen pinching his own thigh. After pinching it, he laughed and strolled out of the house. In less than half a day, the whole village knew about it. There were also some people in the village who followed Chen Li, and they also became successful. Ning Shu sent some letters to the families of the soldiers under his command. For a time, the whole village was filled with firecrackers. Ning Shu asked Madame Li about Bai Yiqiao. Speaking of Bai Yiqiao, Madame Li's expression was indifferent. It seems that after separating from Fang Yong, she followed the boss of Auspicious House. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. She really was together with Wen Yu. The two of them got married? Ning Shu asked. "I don't know about this," Madame Li said. "Bai Yiqiao didn't have that fate. Now that Fang Yong also came out, his rank is higher than your older brother." Ning Shu nodded his head. "She didn't have that fate," Madame Li said. Ning Shu smiled. Now that Fang Yong had risen in the chaotic world, the glory and wealth had nothing to do with her. Because before Fang Yong left, he wrote a letter to divorce Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao had always wanted to trample Chen Ermiai into the mud. Now that she was a general, she was given an iron certificate and glory and wealth. She didn't know how Bai Yiqiao vomited. Bai Yiqiao was shocked when she found out that Chen Ermiai was sitting in the 3-horse carriage. The matter of Chen family and Fang family had spread crazily throughout the town. Bai Yiqiao didn't expect that the Chen family in this life would be better than in her previous life. That silly Chen Li actually became a general. A family with 2 generals. Oh, Chen Ermiai, a woman, could also become a general? She thought that she could change her fate and be together with Fang Yong. But fate favored Chen Ermiai even more. From a madam to a female general. She was given an iron certificate, and enjoyed the treatment of a princess. Why? Could it be that Fang Yong and Chen Ermiai still wanted to be together? Bai Yiqiao's hands tightly pinched her skirt. Her knuckles turned white. She absolutely wouldn't allow this to happen. She and Li Guzi had an inexplicable relationship. It must have something to do with Chen Ermiai. Fang Yong, Fang Yong. When she said this name, Bai Yiqiao's heart ached. Her biggest concern after her rebirth was Fang Yong. She couldn't let go of Fang Yong. She should have been happy with Fang Yong. Bai Yiqiao took a deep breath, opened the cabinet, and began to pack things. When you walked in and saw Bai Yiqiao packing things, she couldn't help but ask, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to find Fang Yong. He can't do this to me," Bai Yiqiao said firmly. Wen Yu's expression was a little worried. She said, "Fang Yong has already divorced you. If you go find him like this, you're just asking for humiliation." Bai Yiqiao took a deep breath. "Fang Yong and I can't be separated like this. Fang Yong is my everything." Wen Yu didn't expect that she had accompanied Bai Yiqiao for nearly 3 years, but she didn't enter her heart. He resisted the pressure of his family and planned to marry an abandoned woman, Bai Yiqiao. Moreover, she was an abandoned woman who had lost her virginity. But Bai Yiqiao didn't agree. She only had Fang Yong in her heart. "Wen Yu, thank you. You are a good person. You will meet a woman who truly loves you. Her body and mind belong to you," Bai Yiqiao said. "I'm not worthy of you." Chapter 902. Bai Yiqiao apologized to Wen Yu, then took the package and left. Wen Yu grabbed Bai Yiqiao's arm and asked in a low voice, "Are you really going?" Bai Yiqiao pushed away Wen Yu's hand and said, "Wen Yu, I know you are good to me, but being moved is not a feeling. You will meet a girl you really like." Wen Yu tightly pursed her lips. "Do you think Fang Yong will marry you again?" "No matter what, I love Fang Yong," Bai Yiqiao said firmly. Wen Yu's face was unwilling for a moment, but finally said, "Then I wish you happiness. Even if I meet you in the future, I will pretend that I don't know you. We are strangers." "Wen Yu, I am sorry." Bai Yiqiao hugged Wen Yu's waist, and tears wet Wen Yu's chest. Before leaving, Bai Yiqiao made such an ambiguous move. Bai Yiqiao inquired when Chen Ermiai would return to the capital. After staying at home for 2 days, Ningxu took the 2 elders of the Chen family and some family members of the soldiers in the village to the capital. Ningxu also compensated some soldiers who sacrificed their lives. Father Chen and Mrs. Li have long wanted to see Chen Li. When Ningxu said that he wanted to go to the capital, the 2 of them did not object. They slaughtered all the domestic animals at home and gave them to the guards who escorted Ningxu back. They also held a banquet for the whole day and invited the whole village to eat. Ningxu took the 2 elders to the town to buy good clothes and some jewelry for Mrs. Li. When there was nothing to do, he asked Mrs. Li to apply a facial mask. When it was close to departure, the 2 elders almost didn't sleep all night, but the next day, they were very energetic as if they had eaten a big tonic pill. The 3 of them sat in a carriage and went to the capital. Father Chen and Mrs. Li have never been far away from home. At first, they were very novel, but after a long time they couldn't stand it. The 2 of them were carsick. Ningxu gave the 2 of them a bag of medicine to wake them up, so that they could smell it when they felt uncomfortable. When they were halfway there, a guard came to Ningxu and said, "General, someone is following us. They have been following us all the way." Ningxu raised his eyebrows. "Go and ask who it is." The guard soon returned. Ningxu said, "It was a woman who said her surname was Bai. She said she was going to the capital to find someone." Ningxu almost laughed out loud. Bai Yiqiao wanted to go to Dedu to find Fang Yong. Ningxu was gloating in his heart. With Bai Yiqiao going, he reckoned that there would be trouble. So Bai Yiqiao is a green tea bitch. In the years when Fang Yong left, there were also men who cared about her. Once she had a good goal, she immediately kicked Wen Yu away. Bai Yiqiao's heart was big. She felt that only Fang Yong was worthy of her. In fact, she looked down on Wen Yu. Wen Yu was just a merchant. Although she was rich, she couldn't let people bow and bend their knees to her. They were all unwilling to give up and felt that they deserved better. Don't worry about it. When they arrived at Dedu, Ningxu placed the 2 elders in the house given by the Yan Emperor. The two elders of the Chen family had never lived in such a big house in their lives. There were also servant girls serving them. Every day, they felt like they were dreaming. Because Chun-Li was not at home, Ning-Shu accompanied the two elders. Bai Yiqiao followed the team to Dedu and inquired about the place where Fang Yong lived. Because Fang Yong was busy fighting, there was only Fang Yong's mother in the big house. Bai Yiqiao wanted to visit Fang Yong's mother, but was refused. The old lady basically didn't go out. Bai Yiqiao had no way to see the old lady. Originally, she should have been the owner of this house. She had money to buy a house, but the meaning was different. Bai Yiqiao waited for half a month before Fang Yong, and Chun-Li returned in triumph. Bai Yiqiao stood on the street and looked at Fang Yong on horseback. She thought of her previous life, which was also so heroic. When the army entered the city, the people lined the streets to welcome them. Some young women also threw money bags at unmarried men like Fang Yong and Chun-Li. Bai Yiqiao held her handkerchief tightly. She didn't know how many people were thinking about Fang Yong. As soon as Chun-Li returned home, Madame Li hugged Chun-Li and cried for a while. Then at the dinner table, Father Chen quickly asked Chun-Li to get married. Chun-Li didn't have the heart to get married. It was the most intense time of the war between the two countries. Facing the pressure of his parents, Chun-Li could only ask Ning-Shu for help. Ning-Shu opened his mouth and said, "Father, mother, now that Gij is the Western general, there are many people who are willing to marry Gij, but it's not easy to find a good wife. You choose first. Gij has no opinion, right, Gij?" "Yes, you look at each other first," Chun-Li said again and again. But then it was about Ning-Shu's marriage. He said that he wanted to marry Ning-Shu to what kind of family? Ning-Shu didn't say anything and was expressionless. Anyway, it's none of her business. As soon as Fang Yong returned home, he was told by his mother that Bai Yiqiao came to find him. Hearing Bai Yiqiao's name, Fang Yong frowned and just told his mother to ignore it. But Bai Yiqiao came to the gate of the house almost every day to find Fang Yong. In addition, Fang Yong was the best candidate for a son-in-law. His family conditions were simple. He had no brothers and only a mother. Too many people coveted Fang Yong. Bai Yiqiao was a little flustered. She also spent some money to spread the word that she was Fang Yong's wife. But Fang Yong still ignored her. Even if he met her, Fang Yong also ignored her. Bai Yiqiao was almost singing a one-man show. She deeply analyzed how much she loved Fang Yong in her heart, and how innocent she was. "So, you have to forgive me." Or she tried to be affectionate with Fang Yong. She hoped that Fang Yong could remember the happy days of the two of them, and Fang Yong's heart would soften. But Fang Yong was still expressionless and didn't have any reaction. Fang Yong was a man with strong ideas. People with strong beliefs will not be shaken. The other party didn't respond. Bai Yiqiao was a little anxious. She even accused Fang Yong of being a rich man and abandoning his wife. She was a copy of Chen Shimi. Bai Yiqiao was very persistent. She used a lot of methods, showing weakness, threatening, pretending to be pitiful, self-mutilating, and even hanging in front of Fang Yong's house. Anyway, it was quite lively. It added a lot of jokes to the people of the capital. Ning-Shu almost moved a stool to sit in front of Fang Yong's house to watch the show. Now in the war, Ning-Shu basically didn't follow. It was her disciples who ran on the battlefield. Even if these people got high positions, she also had a share. Faith power wouldn't be little. Ding, mission completed. Do you want to leave the mission world? 2333's voice sounded in his mind. He had been in this world for a long time. Counting the days, Chen Ermiai was now 18 years old. Leave. He nodded. His head buzzed and he returned to the system space. Ning-Shu felt very tired. He first laid on the bed and slept. War could destroy everything. Every time he fought and killed people, it was the most tiring. Exhaustion came from his soul. Chapter 903. Ning-Shu lay straight on the bed, closed his eyes, and chanted the clear heart mantra in his heart, calming his mind as he slowly fell asleep. When he woke up, he was refreshed and no longer felt tired. After waking up, Ning-Shu sat cross-legged on the bed and began to absorb the soul power in the system space. When he was almost done cultivating, Ning-Shu opened his eyes. Suddenly, a person appeared in front of him, staring straight at him. Ningxu was shocked, but his expression was indifferent. It would be a joke if he was scared in his own territory. The person who came was Chen Ermiai. Chen Ermiai's soul was much dimmer than before. Clearly, she had already paid the reward. Ningxu was a little surprised and asked, "You haven't gone back yet?" Chen Ermiai bowed to Ningxu and said, "I wanted to see you before I go back and thank you." Ningxu returned the greeting and politely said, "No need to thank me. You and I each took what we needed. I also wanted to complete the mission. It's good that you are satisfied." "No matter what, I still have to thank you." Chen Ermiai bowed again. "Really, there's no need," Ningxu said. Chen Ermiai smiled. Her originally tired and old face slowly became youthful. Clearly, she was going to go back. Her figure gradually disappeared from the system space. Ningxu couldn't help but smile. Although it was to complete the mission, hearing the person who entrusted it to him still made his heart feel very comfortable. Ningxu opened the status panel. He wanted to see how much he had gained this time. There should be a lot of faith power. At least he had made a contribution. After going to the battlefield so painstakingly, he should have a lot of points and attributes. Ningxu now wanted to gather 20 million to become an advanced mission taker and go to a higher level world. He needed to find materials to construct a world. If he succeeded in constructing a world, he wouldn't have to worry about being obliterated. He would have his own world. Just thinking about it made him excited. Number 2333 Name, Ningxu, Intermediate Mission Taker. Age, 27 points, 11. 15/4 million soul, 310 health, 81 wisdom, 264 charm, 10 luck, 99 spirit, 170 faith, 3414100 strength, 182 aptitude, 79 merit, 13045 skills. 5th ring shooting technique, trash fighting technique, beginner level peerless martial arts, beginner level poison technique, beginner level business management knowledge, beginner level code programming, beginner level lawyer skills, master ghost catching skills. Honorary titles: Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor items, Calm Halo, Faith Halo, Amulet 5, Upgraded Amulet 2. Halo, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Sister Model Worker, Qinshi's Blessing, Leader Halo, Grass Blessing, Best Friend for a Lifetime, Meow Meow Meow's Blessing, Savior, Zhu Su Nyang's Blessing, Founding Female General, Chen Ermiai's Blessing, to fulfill Chen Ermiai's wish, to take revenge on Bai Yiqiao and Li Guzi. Quest completion rate, 100%. Obtained 4 million credit, 80 attribute points, 1000 faith power, and Chen Ermiai's blessing. Ningxu smiled. His harvest this time was really good. He now had 15 million points. If he did 1 or 2 more missions, he might be able to become a high-level mission enforcer. 80 attribute points, the highest in history. He could add it to any attribute points he wanted. There was no need to be as stingy as before. Serial number, 2333 Name, Ningxu, Intermediate Mission Taker. Age, 27 credit points, 150,000 soul points, 31010 health points, 8110 wisdom points, 26410 charm points, 10 luck points, 9920 MP, 17010 faith power, 3515 martial points, 18210 qualifications, 7910 merit, 13045 skills. 5th ring shooting technique, trash fighting technique, absolute martial arts entry, beginner poison technique, beginner business management knowledge, beginner code programming, beginner lawyer skill, ghost catching skill. Honorary titles: Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor items, Calm Halo, Faith Halo, Amulet 5, Upgraded Amulet 2. Halo, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Sister Model Worker, Qinshi's Blessing, Leader Halo, Grass Blessing, Best Friend for a Lifetime, Meow Meow Meow's Blessing, Saving Savior, Zhu Su Nyang's Blessing, Founding Female General, Chen Ermiai's Blessing. Ningxu looked at so many halos. They didn't seem to be of any use. He asked 2333, "What's the use of these halos?" 2333 explained, "Those who give you their blessings will generate the power of faith in you. They will contribute to your power of faith." Ningxu said, Oh, so they can generate faith power. Ningshu sat on the sofa and said, let's see how Chen Ermiai goes back. Okay. A screen appeared in front of Ningshu. Chun-Li and Chen Ermiai appeared on the screen. Chen Ermiai was reading a book and flipping through some herbs. Chun-Li asked, Sister, there are so many men waiting for you to choose. You're not young anymore. Father and mother are dying. Which one do you like? Brother will help you get him. Chen Ermiai didn't care at all. What kind of men are they? These men want to rely on me for glory and wealth, but they feel that marrying me will hurt their self-esteem. They look so wronged. Chun-Li nodded helplessly. The halos on your body are really unbearable for men. Especially now that Chen Ermiai's medical skills were getting better and better. Almost all the generals would fight for her, but no man would fight for her to be their wife. Oh, men are useless, and they blame me for being capable? Chen Ermiai sniffed the herbs. Men want to rely on me for glory and wealth, but they want me to satisfy their self-esteem. If you don't get married, you'll become an old lady. Do you want to be pointed at everywhere you go? Chun-Li said. A maverick will always be criticized. Men are unhappy that the merit is given to a woman like me. Women are jealous that I can control my own fate, but they can't. They slander and attack me to express the depression in their hearts. Chen Ermiai said indifferently. Chun-Li was speechless. He couldn't argue with her at all. Chen Ermiai was satisfied with her current life. No matter how good a man was, she wouldn't care if she was tortured to death by Li Guzi. Some things were ingrained in men's bones. Chun-Li was speechless. He took out a portrait and said to Chen Ermiai, look at this. It's the son of the Minister of Personnel. He's a famous scholar in Dadu. Chen Ermiai glanced at the portrait and thought for a moment before nodding. I've seen him before. I think it was at a banquet. Chun-Li's eyes lit up. What do you think? Oh, he said in public that I'm a shrew, a demoness with bloody hands. Whoever marries me will be committing a sin, Chen Ermiai said. Chapter 904. Chun-Li, fuck. Chun-Li threw the portrait on the ground. I won't let him go, the bloody female devil. I'll show him who's the real devil. What about this? Chun-Li took out another portrait, Prime Minister Li's eldest son. I heard that he's interested in you. He even tried to get close to me and asked about your situation. He's not bad. He's going to take over his father's position in the future. He's currently in the Ministry of Rights. I heard that he's a talent with a bright future. Chun-Li said. Heard? What you hear might not be true. Chen Ermiai's expression was cold. Then have you heard? He has a confidant, but his father has given him a death order to marry me. Now the wars are endless, and the military officials are gaining power. Prime Minister Li wants to marry me. You said that young Master Li wants to marry me home and worship me like a clay bodhisattva. Then he will be loving with his confidant. Brother, you've walked through mountains of corpses and seas of blood. It's not easy to have such a life. Brother wants to give you to such a person. Chen Ermiai's expression was helpless. Chun-Li, fuck. Chun-Li threw the portrait on the ground and stomped on it. Fuck. But sister, men and women should marry when they're of age. Father and mother. Chun-Li's expression was also very helpless. Since these embroidered pillows won't work, why don't you choose from the military? But these men aren't good people to entrust my life to. Am I going to marry just for the sake of others? I'm not willing. I'm not afraid of death. I'm only afraid that in the backyard, I'll only see my husband. Chen Ermiai said. I paid a huge price to escape from the backyard, but you guys are trying to send me back. Chun-Li looked at his sister's red eyes and sighed. Up to you. I won't force you. Really, it's good to have someone to dote on you, just like your sister-in-law. Chun-Li said. Your sister-in-law dotes on me a lot. She's very heartwarming. Chen Ermiai fiddled with the herbs. Good women are easy to find, but good men are extinct. Chun-Li. Chen Ermiai said without sincerity. Maybe I can meet a man I'm willing to marry. Chun-Li was expressionless. No one is perfect. You always magnify other people's flaws. How can you meet a good match? Then tell me, Which of these men you mentioned is worthy of me tolerating them? Chen Ermei asked. Chun-Li was speechless. I have something to do in the army. I'll take my leave first. Chun-Li turned around and left. Chen Ermei rolled her eyes and continued to fiddle with the herbs. The matter between Bai Yiqiao and Fang Yong had never been resolved. Bai Yiqiao had always considered herself as Fang Yong's wife. It really caused a storm in the city. Even when he went to court, the Yan Emperor asked Fang Yong about it. Fang Yong said that they were husband and wife, but their marriage had already been annulled. It was none of their business. Fang Yong's mother was so annoyed with Bai Yiqiao that she began to look for a wife for Fang Yong. Bai Yiqiao also had some thoughts in her heart. Fang Yong had power and influence, and he also had soldiers in his hands. It was very easy for him to kill a commoner like her. If she made a big deal out of it, Fang Yong wouldn't dare to kill her to cover up the truth. She could also announce that she was Fang Yong's wife, killing two birds with one stone. However, no matter how many methods Bai Yiqiao had, she couldn't shake Fang Yong, who was as immovable as a mountain. Moreover, Fang Yong's mother wouldn't agree. At that time, after Bai Yiqiao's miscarriage, because of excessive blood loss, it was difficult for her to give birth. Now that Fang Yong's identity was different, there was no point in her working hard to build a career without descendants. Using her own body to build a career and property to protect her descendants. Without descendants, what was the point of playing? Fang Yong's mother was very displeased with Bai Yiqiao, who didn't know what was going on. Sometimes, Chen Ermei would also join in the fun. She was very bad-hearted. Whenever she had nothing to do, she would wear luxurious clothes and sit in a luxurious carriage in front of Bai Yiqiao. Bai Yiqiao was so angry that her face turned white. Every time she saw Chen Ermei like this, Bai Yiqiao's heart would scratch, as if a rake was raking her heart over and over again, bringing out wounds one after another. Bai Yiqiao really wanted to pounce on this woman and scratch her face. Don't think that she didn't see the pride on her face. However, Chen Ermei had guards around her, and she was also a general. Bai Yiqiao could only endure it. Her heart was bleeding, and she watched her leave. It wasn't that Bai Yiqiao didn't think about dealing with Chen Ermei. In private, she spread rumors that Chen Ermei was shameless, but soon those who spread the rumors were imprisoned. In the face of absolute strength, any conspiracy could be destroyed with brute force. It was so simple and crude that Bai Yiqiao vomited blood. People used their power to suppress people. Why didn't they use the rights they got from surviving a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood? When Bai Yiqiao was depressed, she met Wen Yu in the capital. Seeing Wen Yu, Bai Yiqiao's heart was full of grievances, and she wanted to tell Wen Yu. Bai Yiqiao was used to having grievances. Wen Yu comforted her. During this time, Bai Yiqiao's heart was full of bitterness. However, she saw Wen Yu choose a hairpin from the stall and insert it into a woman's hair bun. The woman smiled at Wen Yu. Bai Yiqiao instantly felt a surge of anger from her heart. She felt betrayed. Wen Yu kept saying that he liked her and loved her, but now he was with someone else. Subconsciously, Bai Yiqiao hoped that Wen Yu would keep his chastity. Even if he didn't marry for the rest of his life, his heart would be on her. She never thought that other women would give Wen Yu happiness. It was enough to love her. Bai Yiqiao was a Mary Sue green tea bitch. Wen Yu turned his head and saw Bai Yiqiao staring at him. He was stunned for a moment. The woman next to him asked him what was wrong. Wen Yu was just a little stunned. He turned his head and said nothing to the woman. Then he left with the woman without looking back. He walked away calmly. He said that he wanted to treat her as a stranger. Now he really treated her as a stranger? Ignoring her like this made Bai Yiqiao feel even more uncomfortable than mocking her. Did this mean that Wen Yu really didn't have her in his heart? The most heartbreaking thing in the world was that something that would always belong to her was gone. Bai Yiqiao felt that Wen Yu's love would always belong to her. She could make Wen Yu love her and engrave it in his heart. But how could Wen Yu be so calm now? Bai Yiqiao even doubted whether Wen Yu really loved her. But could Wen Yu fake the 3 years that he had been by her side? Bai Yiqiao wanted to rush up and question Wen Yu. Did he love her or not? But when she saw him lowering his head and talking to the woman beside him with a gentle expression, she couldn't move her feet. That gentleness used to belong to her. Bai Yiqiao felt that she had been abandoned by the world. Everything that belonged to her was gone. God was really unfair. Bai Yiqiao's face was twisted with resentment. Ning Shu turned off the screen. Because of greed, he didn't get anything. There was nothing waiting for you in place. How could it be possible to get all the benefits? Chapter 905. He didn't know if Chen Ermiai found someone she liked in the end, but with Chen Ermiai's situation, it wasn't easy to find someone. Chen Ermiai didn't seem to be ready to get married. As long as he was happy, to be able to give so many points and attribute points, it meant that Chen Ermiai was still very satisfied with the mission. Ning Shu took out the Ultimate Martial Arts secret book from the bookshelf. There were more and more Qijin patterns in it, and it needed to slowly form a world. But she couldn't even find the origin of the world. The road ahead was long. She put the secret book on the bookshelf and opened the chat system. She heard a ding-dong sound. Someone asked to talk to her. Ning Shu saw that it was number 6457. Ning Shu. Wasn't this Zhang Jiasin? She was very sensitive to this number. This person was someone who killed her once. Their hatred was as deep as the ocean. Ning Shu didn't understand why Zhang Jiasin was so insistent on talking to her. She didn't understand what Zhang Jiasin wanted to do. The two of them had already shed all pretense of cordiality. What was the point of this? It was undeniable that Zhang Jiasin was full of malice towards her. Zhang Jiasin could apologize and stab her with a knife when the time was right. If the time was right, he would kill her. It was rare to see such a shameless person. It seemed that she had to be prepared to not show mercy when she met Zhang Jiasin. A wolf was eyeing her covetously. This feeling was really uncomfortable. She had to kill the wolf completely. Ning Shu directly rejected Zhang Jiasin's request to talk to her. She didn't want to talk to Zhang Jiasin at all. Every word was worth points. What a waste. Ning Shu looked to see if anyone else had sent her a message. None. Looking at her empty chat interface, she felt that she didn't have many friends. It was just that she hadn't met a like-minded friend. There was no rush. She would meet someone eventually. Ning Shu closed the chat interface and opened a book from the bookshelf. Just as she was about to read, System 2333 suddenly coughed, as if it had tuberculosis. Cough, 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 cough. 2333 coughed. Ning Shu raised her eyebrows and asked, "You're poisoned. Let's do a system quest for the next quest, okay?" 2333 Ning Shu said. Ning Shu closed the book and asked, "What system?" "Haha, I got a beloved concubine system. As you know, I need data and luck to perfect myself. I need to perfect the data." Ning Shu's face was indifferent. "What does your leveling up have to do with me? Leveling up is useless, so why waste it? I just don't want to work for you." Ning Shu really despised the useless 2333. "Don't be like this. We're all girls in a brothel. If we're too weak, we'll be taken advantage of. We have to help each other," 2333 quickly said. "It doesn't matter. There's no benefit for me if you become stronger," Ning Shu said calmly. Basically, 2333 would only appear once per mission. 2333's function was to notify her to leave the world. No matter how high the level of a timer was, it was still a timer. 2333333. 2333 said, "Don't you want to know who the uncle and the silver-haired man are? When I become stronger, I can invade the super AI and you'll know everything you want to know." "Io, you're amazing, brother. Invading depends on who they are. Who cares who they are or what their relationship is? Even if they're gay, it's none of my business. When you're strong enough to invade the super AI, I'll probably be able to beat those too." Ning Shu sneered. When he became stronger and reached that level, he would naturally know who they were. Who needs 2333 to sneakily infiltrate the circle? What's the point of that? When she was weak, why didn't the system help her? Now that she had some value, the system was like this. This made her very unhappy. Although only people with value had the right to be looked at, they were one. The system didn't teach her well. Feelings were formed through time. Ning Shu felt that he didn't have any feelings for the system. It was just that they were tied together by necessity. If you want to do a quest, then I'll do it. 2333 was silent for a while. Finally, he sighed. If you don't want to, then forget it. I won't force you. Even if you force me, I won't do it. Ningshu opened the book and calmly read. The system space was quiet. The atmosphere was a bit depressing. Ningshu finished the book without any psychological burden. He did what he needed to do. As for whether the system was angry or not, Ningshu didn't care at all. The system ignored him to the point where it didn't even do basic work. Sometimes when it asked him about a quest, he didn't even respond. You still want to level up? Dream on. Even if he wanted to level up, it had to be her willing help. She had the final say on what quest to do, not whatever he wanted to do. The system was just a support. Without the system, even if it was the lowest level system, Ningshu didn't care. Ningshu picked up the showerhead and hummed a tune as he watered the potted plants. Then he heard a ding from the chat system. Ningshu opened the chat system while watering the plants. It was a message from Zhang Jiasen. There was also a message asking her to meet at a restaurant in the virtual space. He also said that fighting was prohibited in the virtual space. He wouldn't do anything to her, but he had something to discuss. Ningshu, Ningshu closed the chat system expressionlessly. Why did she have to go? She didn't even want to see Zhang Jiasen. Sooner or later, she would kill him. With Zhang Jiasen's cunning, even if fighting was prohibited in the virtual space, he would still find a way to hurt her. It wasn't Ningshu's style to get beaten up when she knew that he had bad intentions. Ningshu closed the chat system. After a while, another message came. It was still from Zhang Jiasen. Zhang Jiasen said that he had something important to talk to her about. Ningshu narrowed her eyes and clicked on the system exchange store. Since she had made up her mind to kill Zhang Jiasen, now was the time. Ningshu browsed the system store to see if there were any items that could deal with Zhang Jiasen in his soul state. Moreover, it had to be done secretly. Fighting was prohibited in the virtual space. If she was discovered, she wouldn't have a good ending. Ningshu's gaze stopped on the soul nail. The soul nail would be nailed into the soul and absorb the soul power of the person. The soul power would be absorbed by the soul nail. It was a kind of thing that could rob the soul power of others. It felt quite evil and was very expensive. It required 1,000 merit points and 2,000 faith power. The product introduction was very attractive. As long as you are in the soul state, you can't escape the soul nail. Moreover, the soul power in the soul nail could be used by the user. This soul nail was equivalent to an energy converter. However, it required 1,000 merit points and 2,000 faith power. She could afford it, but did she have to spend so much to deal with Zhang Jiasen? Chapter 906. Ningshu felt his insides hurt when he saw how expensive the spirit spike was. Merit and faith power were the hardest to obtain. Sometimes, a single mission might not even give you any merit points. Although the faith power was slowly increasing, it was still 2,000 points. 1,000 merit points. Mei Ziqing was trying so hard to earn merit points to become a super mission enforcer. Damn it! Was Zhang Jiasen worth it? Who did he think he was? Even if she wanted to kill him, she shouldn't pay such a high price. She couldn't afford it. Ahem. 2333 said. Ningshu, I suggest you don't touch the spirit spike. Mission enforcers who touch it are mostly useless. What do you mean? Ningshu asked. The spirit spike can steal another person's soul for your own use. It's very simple and easy to obtain. As long as you have a soul, you can strengthen yourself. 2333 explained. Mission enforcers only need to fulfill their clients' wishes to obtain soul power. But with the spirit spike, it's different. You can steal another person's soul power as you wish. This feeling is addictive. Some mission enforcers will kill people in the mission world to obtain soul power to strengthen themselves. 2333 said. In the end, they will be wiped out. There's one more thing. After the client donates his soul power, this power will first be purified. But if he directly absorbs the power of the soul nail, This soul will be tainted with emotions and all kinds of resentment and impurities, which will greatly damage his mind. Ningshu's heart trembled. When he saw this thing, he felt it was very evil. There was no such thing as a free lunch. Ningshu frowned and said, "If this thing is so dangerous, why put it in the exchange shop? Why not? Merit and faith power are good things. Everyone needs them. You couldn't resist the temptation of power and chose this method. If you don't have enough willpower, you deserve to be killed. The strong survive, and the weak are eliminated. The world is fickle and full of flowers. If you don't even have the slightest bit of willpower, how can you become an outstanding mission enforcer?" 2333's words were very cold. "This is your choice. What does it have to do with the spirit spike?" Alright, she was really speechless. Ningshu looked at the soul spike. The soul spike was just a tool, and since it was a tool, it must have been made by someone. Ningshu didn't believe that the soul spike couldn't purify the impurities in the soul. He had purposely left such a flaw to trick them. And it was so damn expensive. It felt like the higher-ups didn't really care about these mission enforcers. They didn't even care if they died. If he failed, he would be obliterated. He wouldn't even have the chance to start over. Ningshu closed the system exchange mall. Life was full of pitfalls. It was not easy to complete the quest, but he still had to pit his own people. You can't play like this. The closer one got to the top, the fewer people there would be. After going through layers and layers of selection, the number of people standing at the top was very few. The air above must be very fresh. Ningshu really wanted to climb up and see the scenery above. Ding dong. Another message came from the chat system. Ningshu opened it and saw that it was from Zhang Jiasen. Ningshu suddenly felt helpless. It was rare for someone to be so persistent. What was Zhang Jiasen trying to do? Was he trying to take revenge, or was he after something from her? No matter what Zhang Jiasen was trying to do, Ningshu didn't plan to play with him. Ningshu grinned and directly blocked Zhang Jiasen, never to see him again. On the other side, Zhang Jiasen was notified by the chat system that the message had failed to be sent. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and then closed the chat system. Zhang Jiasen's expression was indifferent. If the other party could come over, it would be good. If not, it didn't matter. He was just casually trying. Ningshu said 2333. "Let's look at the next mission enforcer." 2333 stuttered for a while. "You really don't want to do missions with the system?" "No," Ningshu said crisply. "I'll wait until I'm in the mood." "You're not doing the mission for me. You can also get points and attribute points. Why are you so against it?" 2333 asked. Ningshu smiled and said, "I'm not against the mission. I'm against you." 2333 suddenly acted cute and said, "Ningshu, don't be like this. Can't you take a stand? Stand firm." Ningshu was still smiling and said, "Just like me. I've always despised you. My stance has never changed. You're just a piece of trash." 2333. A figure slowly appeared in the space. It was a girl who was about 15 or 16 years old. She was wearing a brocade dress. Although the material was a little old, Ningshu could tell that the material was not bad. She also had a hairpin on her head, but the style was old-fashioned. It didn't suit her age at all. This girl was pretty. She had delicate features, white skin and cherry lips. One look and you could tell that she was a beauty. However, the cowardice and timidity between her eyebrows reduced her beauty from 9 points to 4 points. Even at this moment, she still lowered her head. She looked very uneasy. Ningshu bowed and said, "Qing Qian greets Miss." Ningshu took a deep breath. It was the ancient world again. To be honest, Ningshu didn't like the ancient world. It was too restrictive for girls. It was a huge hindrance to completing the mission. Ningshu returned the bow and said, "You need to counterattack." "Yes, I want to counterattack." Feng Qingqian raised her head. Ningshu said, "I'll give you 70% of my soul power. I don't want to be compared to others. I want my body and my parents. I hate them." Ningshu saw that Feng Qingqian was getting emotional. He comforted her and said, "Tell me slowly. I'll only understand what you want after you tell me clearly." Feng Qingqian took a deep breath. She looked at Ning Shu with her beautiful eyes and said, I want my body. I don't want her to take over my body. Ning Shu saw Feng Qingqian's reaction and decided to see what the plot of this world was like. This was the story of the king of assassins. Ning Su was a female assassin. She looked cold and noble. She looked down on the world. In the end, she was betrayed and buried in the sea. Then she transmigrated into the body of Feng Qingqian. When she woke up, Ning Su found out that this body was drowned. Then she found out that the mother of this body was killed by the legal mother. Ning Su squinted her eyes. Her eyes flashed. She covered her chest. She complained that the original owner of this body was useless and bullied by others. She said, I'll live well for you. I'll make those evil people pay you back 1,000 times. Why would I want you to help me live? It was so frustrating. She felt that the original owner of this body grew up just to contribute her body. No one would be willing to do that. Chapter 907. Out of humanitarianism, Ning Su decided to take revenge for this body and her mother. So the king of assassins started the story of bullying scum to reach the peak of life. At the same time, she gained a powerful and black-bellied man who doted on her. The two of them looked at the scenery together. And now, this person was the original owner of this body. She died before she was 16 years old and gave her body to Ning Su's child. Feng Qingqian wanted to give her soul to take back her body. The existence of the original owner, Feng Qingqian, was to set off Ning Su's existence. The original owner was weak and infatuated. Ning Su was cold and unparalleled. The original owner was timid and had low self-esteem. Ning Su was cool and arrogant. The original owner was disliked by her fiancé. Ning Su attracted the attention of many men. Feng Qingqian was dead, but people still compared her. Whenever they saw the beautiful Ning Su, they would say, Hey, why is she different from the rumors? Interesting. Woman, you have successfully attracted this king's interest, blah blah blah. In terms of Feng Qingqian's psychological shadow, and there was no good person in the entire Feng manor. Her father was a scumbag father. Her mother was a flirtatious slut who tortured the concubine's daughter. Her sisters were green tea bitches who always wanted to steal her man. The servants bullied the weak and feared the strong. The servants bullied the masters. In short, there was no good person in the entire family. When the Feng family was cleaned up, the concubine's mother, who was originally dead, came back to life. Her mother's identity was noble. She was a princess of a country. Her father's identity was even more powerful. She wasn't a child of the Feng family. No wonder the Feng family bullied her. When the parents came back, they doted on the suffering child to make it up to the child. But the child was already dead. She wanted the moon but couldn't take the stars from an imposter wearing her own skin. How big was Feng Qingqian's psychological shadow? Feng Qingqian didn't appear when she was alive. Now that she was dead, she appeared. So Feng Qingqian hated her parents. Although the Feng family didn't treat her very well, they still gave her food. She grew up, but her biological parents didn't care about her. Her mother faked her death when she could remember. She wanted to find her man. Ning Shu, who had accepted the plot. That Ning Shu turned to look at Feng Qingqian. He didn't know what to say. So your wish is to take back your body? Ning Shu asked. Feng Qingqian nodded. That evildoer was using his own skin to make trouble. Feng Qingqian bit her lips and said, If possible, I hope to protect the Feng family. Without the Feng family, I don't know where to go. Didn't the Feng clan bully you? Ning Shu raised an eyebrow. In Poppy's view, the Feng clan was just a bunch of dregs. Feng Qingqian shook her head. I'm not a child of the Feng family. Father, it was General Feng who took in my mother and me. After my mother died, General Feng didn't chase me out. I know I'm weak and useless, Feng Qingqian said. But the Feng family is where I've been living for 15 years. Feng Qingqian being bullied in the Feng family was her own business, but it was not Ning Su's turn to use her name to beat the Feng family into a mess. Poppy was a proud and arrogant person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. If she wanted to deal with someone else, They would definitely want to deal with her as well. Over and over again, it was all too normal for her to want to kill the other party no matter what. They hated each other for a reason. Ning Shu thought Feng Qingqian was very kind in her bones. Or, she could tell right from wrong. In ancient times, a woman without a family or clan would be treated like a slave or a prostitute in a brothel. Can you help me? Feng Qingqian asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded. Yes, but you need to use your soul power to do that. Are you sure you want to do that? I'm sure. Feng Qingqian nodded. Then her body slowly disappeared. After Feng Qingqian left, Ning Shu opened the system's exchange store. He exchanged for fasting pills, water, and some basic medicine. Then he said to 2333, enter the mission. In a small yard in the backyard of the Feng family, the yard was a bit old. A woman was wet, and there were traces of moss on her clothes. Her hair was messy and her face was pale. She was lying on the bed alone. She didn't even have anyone to change her wet clothes. At this moment, the woman's fingers trembled. Her eyelashes trembled. Her eyes moved slightly. Then she suddenly opened them. Her eyes were very cold. They were like the stars in the night sky. Ingsu frowned. When she frowned, her temperament was very cold. She had an indescribable coldness. She was already dead. That man deliberately got close to her. In the end, he plotted to kill her. Sure enough, men were all liars. That was the only time she trusted a man. She didn't expect to end up like this. Ingsu felt her head hurt. The memories of this body flooded in. Ingsu couldn't help but rub her eyebrows. The original owner of this body was really. She was killed by someone just like that. A bright glint flashed in Poppy's eyes. Since he had the chance to live again, he would have to live a different life in this lifetime. First, she had to deal with the servant girl beside her. Ingsu heard the footsteps at the door. She sat up. Her back was straight. Her eyes were sharp. People didn't dare to look at her directly. If they met her eyes, they would feel a chill down their spine. The servant girl, Ji Tao, walked in and saw the miss who was already dead sitting up. She was so scared that she screamed. Shut up, Ingsu said coldly. Her eyes were very cold as she looked at Ji Tao. Ji Tao stopped screaming and stammered. Little miss. You, how did you live? She had just gone to inform Madam that the miss had stopped breathing. But now the miss was alive. Ji Tao, who do you think is your master? Ingsu said coldly. Ji Tao felt that it was strange. What was the miss doing? It was strange. Ji Tao said carelessly. Miss is naturally this servant's master. Miss now the husband. Impudent. Is this your attitude towards your master? Ingsu raised her eyebrows, which made her look especially fierce. Ingsu hated this kind of disloyal and unjust person the most. Don't think that she didn't know that Ji Tao wanted to climb up the social ladder. She would run to the main courtyard when she had nothing to do, just to please the daughter of the first wife. Miss, Madam and second miss are coming over now, Ji Tao said. This servant will help miss change her clothes. As Ji Tao spoke, she reached out to take off Ingsu's wet clothes. Ji Tao wanted to tidy up the miss before Madam came over. If Madam saw her like this as a servant, she would definitely be punished. Ji Tao still wanted to change places and serve a different master. She was not capable, so how could Madam think highly of her? Ingsu used to be an assassin. She hated it when people got close to her. When she saw Ji Tao casually reach out to touch her, she immediately grabbed Ji Tao's hand and pulled it hard. Suddenly, there was a crisp sound of bones breaking. Chapter 908. Ji Tao was caught off guard and her wrist was broken. Her face suddenly turned pale and she screamed in pain. She repeatedly shouted, hand, hand, hand. My hand. Ji Tao's hand was limp. A trace of disgust flashed in Ingsu's eyes, and she let go of Ji Tao's hand. Ji Tao held her wrist with one hand and questioned. Miss, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why did he break her wrist for no reason? I hate it when someone touches me, Ingsu said coldly. Ji Tao was burning with anxiety. Coupled with the pain on her wrist, she couldn't help but shout. Miss, are you possessed by a ghost? What time is it now? You are possessed by a ghost. Poppy stood up, walked in front of Jitao, and gave Jitao 2 slaps. Who do you think you are? At this time, footsteps came from outside the room. Then, a madam wearing a brocade dress walked in. Madame Feng was over 30 years old, and maintained herself well. Beside her was her daughter Feng Feiyan. Feng Feiyan was very beautiful. The clothes on her body were also carefully tailored. The jewelry was also carefully selected. When matched with the clothes, she was like a woman shrouded in the red clouds. Beautiful and bright. Madame Feng saw that Ingsu's clothes were wet, and there were water plants on it. Her hair was messy. She couldn't help but frown and say sternly, "Look at you. Hurry up and change your clothes. Fourth sister, you are so wet. If you are seen by others, your reputation will be ruined." Feng Feiyan looked up and down at Ingsu. She looked very arrogant. "Hurry up and change your clothes," Madame Feng said. "Your maid serves you like this." Madam, you have to make a decision for this servant." Jitao knelt on the ground and cried. This servant was going to change the young miss clothes, but the young miss broke this servant's wrist and gave the servant 2 slaps. It's not that this servant didn't serve you well. Ingsu's expression became colder and colder. She looked at Jitao with even colder eyes. In her heart, she completely gave up on Jitao. Usually, she neglected the original owner. Now, she actually betrayed her master for glory. Madame Feng saw Ingsu's unruly appearance. It was completely different from the previous Feng Qingqian. She couldn't help but say, "Are you possessed? And what's with your eyes? My mother is asking you a question. Why aren't you replying?" Feng Fian couldn't help but ask. "Help the 4th miss change her clothes." Lady Wang waved her hand, and called for the servant girls behind her to help Ingsu change her clothes. Poppy's eyes turned cold, and he used his martial arts to knock down these servant girls and old women. His movements were clean and neat, and his moves were also very vicious. If it wasn't to pinch their necks, it was to break their arms. Madame Feng looked at the room full of maids and grannies. She frowned. "Feng Qingqian, I think you're really sick." Did water get into your brain when you fell into the water? Who is the one who caused me to fall into the water? Poppy said coldly. "Feng Qingqian, what do you mean by this? Could it be that someone pushed you down?" Feng Fian couldn't help but ask. "Feng Qingqian, you're just a concubine's daughter. How dare you speak to my mother like that? You don't even greet her when you see her." Feng Feiyan berated Ingsu. Poppy straightened his back and said, "I will not bow to a woman with a venomous heart. I will kneel to the heavens and the earth, but I will not bow to a woman like that." Madame Feng had a headache and rubbed her forehead. "I think your brain isn't clear. Fei Yan, call more servant girls and grannies over. Tie this girl up. We can't let her go crazy," Madame Feng said to her daughter. The servant girls and grannies in the room couldn't get up. "Call another doctor over and check Feng Qingqian's brain." "Yes, mother. Daughter will go now." Feng Feiyan snorted at Poppy. She lifted her skirt and was about to step over the threshold. Poppy said coldly, "There's nothing wrong with my brain. The ones with problems are you too." Poppy gave Madame Feng and Feng Feiyan a sweeping kick, tripping the 2 of them to the ground. Madame Feng had never suffered like this. She fell to the ground and held her waist, unable to get up. Poppy sneered and patted his hands. He said coldly, "Don't provoke me in the future. Otherwise, I will make you suffer." Feng Feiyan quickly got up from the ground and helped her mother up. She shouted at Poppy, "Feng Qingqian, are you crazy? How dare you treat your mother like this?" Madame Feng's waist hurt. She bit her lip and said to Feng Feiyan, "Let's go." The group of people left the dilapidated courtyard dejectedly. "Young Miss Yu," Jitao was stunned. "Are you crazy? From today onwards, you are not my person. If you want to climb up the social ladder, then climb up the social ladder," Poppy said with a cold face. Although it was the same body, because of the change in the soul, the temperament of the whole person was different. Clearly the face was the same, but at a glance, it was not the same person. "Get out. Don't hang around in front of me. Otherwise, the next time I will break your leg," Poppy scolded Jitao. A fierce murderous aura rushed toward Jitao. Jitao's body was cold. She looked at Poppy as if she had seen a ghost. She turned around and ran out of the room. As soon as Jitao went out, Poppy's body relaxed. This body was really bad. It was very uncomfortable after 2 rounds of punches. He was flustered and short of breath. Poppy opened the wardrobe and found a relatively clean set of clothes. He changed the wet clothes on his body. He felt a little tired and planned to lie on the bed and rest for a while. After he had rested, then he was going to plan his new life. Poppy had just closed her eyes for a while when she suddenly sat up. She held her head in her hands and was in extreme pain. She felt that her head was going to explode. An inexplicable force wanted to squeeze her soul out of the body. "What are you?" Poppy bit her lip and said. "What kind of lonely soul are you?" "I am Feng Qingqian. How dare you take over my body?" Ningxu was really speechless. He did not expect that he would be one step too late. Poppy's soul had already entered Feng Qingqian's body. And Ningxu found that although Poppy's soul was not very strong, it had a strong murderous aura. And the resentment was very strong. It made her soul seem to be very aggressive. Ningxu had seen souls before, but he had never seen a person with such a dark soul. An assassin had a lot of blood on his hands. It did not matter if the person was good or evil, he would kill. How could a person who could become the king of assassins be a good person? Ningxu could not merge into Feng Qingqian's body for a long time. The murderous aura in her soul made her soul very uncomfortable. Ningxu used his mind power and slowly merged his soul into the body. Poppy held her head and was in extreme pain. She gritted her teeth and said, "Feng Qingqian, you are already dead. Instead of living like this, why don't I live for you and live a bright life?" Chapter 909. Poppy felt as if her head was about to explode. Her brain felt like it was being pricked by countless needles. She was in so much pain that she wished she was dead. And there was a force that was trying to separate her from her body. Fear rose in Poppy's heart. It had not been easy for her to be reborn. She did not have to kill again and again every day. To be treated as a killing machine by others. She had to start a new life anew after being reborn. Poppy held her head in her hands and gritted her teeth as she said with great difficulty, "Feng Qingqian, I will help you live the rest of your life. I will not let anyone bully you. A phoenix bathes in fire and starts a new life, all right?" If not for the fact that she had just merged into this body and had not completely merged with this body, with Poppy's personality, she would not be speaking so nicely to Ningxu. Ningxu just chuckled softly. "This is my body, my life. How I live is my business. That is your life. What has it got to do with me? If I give up my body, I will die. Why should I give it up?" Ningxu's brows were tightly knitted together. She felt as if her soul was being tainted with a wave of resentment, which made her feel irritable. Waves of icy cold energy surged into her soul, piercing her soul until it hurt. Poppy's soul was rather tough, and his will was strong. As a killer, killing was like eating a meal. He was used to it. Without a strong will, he would not be able to become the king of killers. Poppy saw that Ningxu did not know what was good for her and could not help but say, "If not for me, you would have been killed by others. You say it as if I give up my body, I will be able to live." Ningxu could not help but laugh out loud. "You are such a shameless wandering ghost. You snatch someone else's body and still want to take credit for it. I would rather die myself than for you to take over my body. If I die and you use my body, would I live?" As Ningxu said that, she was chanting the clear heart mantra in her heart, dispelling the haze and resentment in her soul. Poppy's face was cold, and the veins on his forehead were popping out. He was determined not to give up his body. "Do you think I want to enter your body? Do you think I have a choice? If I had a choice, I would never enter the body of a weakling like you," Poppy said coldly as he endured the pain coming from his soul. Ningxu said indifferently, "Then you can leave this body." The original owner had lived for so long, and this body seemed to have been specially prepared for Yingsu. The original owner was ignored by the Feng family, and this became the reason for Yingsu to take revenge on the Feng family. "Io, The whole world is filled with little bitches, saying that my fate is in my own hands and not in the hands of the heavens. What exactly does the heavens owe you? She opened a brothel, established an assassin camp, and created bombs in the era of cold weapons. Her journey was smooth sailing, and she unified the entire continent with her man. It was as if the heavens had given her a cheat code. She was even more heaven-defying. The heavens must be blind to allow someone like you to transmigrate and be reborn. Ningxu merged with Ningxu's body, but he had no way of driving Poppy out of the body. Poppy's soul had a murderous aura that made Ningxu feel very uncomfortable. After a while, Poppy let out a sigh of relief. Her head no longer hurt, and her body was weak. Her whole body was like she had been pulled out of the water. She lay on the bed without moving. Since you and I can't do anything to each other, then so be it. Poppy said to Ningxu. Sooner or later, she would be erased. Ningxu also had this idea in his heart. She had to take back the ownership of this body. Okay. Ningxu said coldly. He then began to chant the clear heart spell in his heart. Ningxu could feel that there was a soul that he could not see clearly next to him. It was looking at him with vigilance like a tiger watching its prey. This battle of the body made Poppy feel very tired. She was also very hungry. She could not help but shout, "Someone come and bring me something." The sky was already dark, and Poppy had broken the servant's peach. Poppy shouted a few times, but no one answered. Poppy said to Ningxu sarcastically, "Pfft, you still can't bear to part with this body. Look at what kind of life you are living. Although you are a young lady, you are ignored. You are neglected like this. When you are hungry, you don't even have anything to eat. It is really sad for people to live like you." Ningxu. If there is no one, can't you find something to eat? Ningxu could not help but say. It was just a few steps to the kitchen. Sad. Poppy's tone was a tone of sadness and anger. At the same time, it had a very disgusting emotion. Ningxu. An assassin who had developed such an arrogant personality. Did no one want to beat her up? Sometimes she thought too highly of herself. Poppy had no choice but to get up and find something to eat. She went out of the room and looked around the somewhat shabby courtyard. She sneered. Which young lady lives in such a courtyard? If he remembered correctly, Feng Feiyan's courtyard was called elegant and exquisite. Ningxu did not speak. Their temperaments were different, so they looked at things in different ways. Feng Qingqian was a person who was not good with words. Her mother had passed away. Her father was also a general. He was a rough man and spent most of his time in the military camp. In the residence, Madame Feng was in charge. Did you expect a mistress to treat a concubine's child as her own? Only a crying child would have milk. Feng Qingqian did not say it herself. Did she want Madame Feng to force things into her hands? If she did not say it, Madame Feng would pretend that she did not see it. At this moment, Poppy felt that Madame Feng was a vicious woman who mistreated a concubine's daughter. Poppy went to the kitchen, stole some things to eat, and returned to the courtyard. Poppy lay on the bed to rest. Ningxu thought about it. While she was asleep, he fought for the control of the body. Ningxu slowly took control of the body. He did not expect that he would really take control of the body. Ningxu opened his eyes and clenched his fists. It was really comfortable to have a physical body. To be honest, two souls squeezed in one body was like squeezing in a narrow glass bottle. It was very uncomfortable. Feng Qingqian, what are you doing? She only took a nap for a while, and this woman took advantage of the situation to take control of the body. Poppy wanted to take back the body aggressively. Ningxu felt that he had lost control of the body in a short while. Poppy was proud in her heart. A weak person like you still wanted to take her body. Even if you took the body, you would still live a life of being bullied. What's the point? Poppy hated this kind of silent person who only knew how to cry after being wronged. She would rather betray the world than let the world betray her. She was so black-bellied and vengeful. Those who hurt her and made her uncomfortable, she would kill them even if they were far away and return it 1,000 times. Ningxu lost control of the body. He could not help but say, "This body is not yours. You can't keep occupying it. I want to come out too." Stay in the body and watch how I live. I have to fight for what I have to fight for. Living like you is no different from dying. Poppy laughed coldly. Chapter 9-10. Ningxu listened to Poppy's domineering words and did not say anything. She still could not win Poppy's soul. Poppy's soul could not be said to be very strong. It was just that the resentment and evil aura within it, and there were also some negative karma. Ningxu did not want to touch it at all. Although these things were wrapped around Poppy's soul, but it made her soul very aggressive. These things were very harmful to the soul. Ningxu had been a Maoshan Taoist and had transcended before. Ningxu silently chanted the transcendence incantation, and the incantation slowly melded into Poppy's soul. But the effect was not very great. Although the evil aura dissipated a little, but compared to Poppy's body, it was just a drop in the ocean. What Ningxu wanted to transcend was the soul that was wrapped around Poppy and had no consciousness. These could not even be considered as souls, and were only wrapped tightly around Poppy by instinct. Although Poppy was like a cow, her soul was exceptionally heavy, and she could not even sleep well. She could use the excuse that she was an assassin and had to maintain a vigilant heart to explain. Ningxu did not stop chanting the incantation. It was these things that made Poppy's soul aggressive. But without these things, Poppy's soul could not be said to be very strong. And she had even passed through the spatial barrier, which expended a lot of her soul. Not knowing if it was because Ningxu was dealing with the evil aura, Poppy had a good night's sleep. When she woke up in the morning, she stretched her back and was in high spirits. Ever since she was 10 years old, she had not had such a good night's sleep. In order to live, she killed animals, killed people, went through cruel training just to live. Now that she had been reborn, she did not need to live that kind of life anymore. They were in the same body after all. Ningxu could vaguely sense what Poppy was thinking in her heart. She had killed someone and still looked so aggrieved. I just want to live. Was she supposed to say, you've suffered, you've suffered? Since it was to live, there was no need to be so pretentious. No one had an easy life. Ningxu looked at Poppy, who had changed into neat clothes and was practicing martial arts in the yard. He could not help but ask, why haven't you gone to pay respects to your official mother yet? Feng Qingqian was a concubine's daughter. She had to greet her mother every morning. Even though she didn't have much presence, she only saw the other sisters talking and laughing. She basically didn't say anything. However, he had also expressed his attitude. When Poppy heard Ningxu's words, he gave a cold laugh and said, now, even your mother might not be able to get up. She'll need 100 days to recover from her injuries. Ningxu was stunned. Did something happen before she came? You fought with mother and beat her up? Ningxu's tone was displeased. With Poppy's personality, he would seek revenge for the slightest grievance. Let's not talk about the fact that Lady Feng is an elder. Beating up my official mother is unfilial. What will others think of me in the future? In this feudal society, women who lost their reputation were either sent to the family temple or killed to prove their innocence. Poppy's actions were practically challenging the feudal system. Moreover, he was so arrogant that he did not kneel before the emperor. It was as if he would kneel to the heavens, kneel to the earth, and not to the man. So what if the ancient emperors were so arrogant? The male lead still felt that he had a personality. I pampered him, and he could do whatever he wanted. It could only be said that the male lead was blessed by the heavens. Pedantic and stubborn, Poppy said coldly. Her expression was one of disdain. No one can control what I do. No one can control my fate. What others say has nothing to do with me. Living in the mouth, you will be disturbed by the mouth. I don't know what your life was like in the past, but my life was like this. The 3 cardinal principles and the 5 constant elements, and there was a clear hierarchy, Ningxu said. Could one person shake the system that everyone recognized? Because it was recognized, if someone wanted to challenge or jump out of the system, they would be punished and condemned. Not everyone could have Poppy's good life. In this era, more women lived like this under the system. Hence, Ningxu didn't like the ancient world. It was too restrictive for women. Also, Ningxu knew what he was capable of. There was no way he could change it. Change couldn't be done overnight. Even though society had developed until now, there were still many male chauvinists cancer in life. They thought that women should have children and do housework. They had no personality and were like inflatable dolls. They didn't complain and disregarded the value of women. It could be seen that some ideas were deeply ingrained. Ningxu smiled. These men should all go to hell. It would be best if they couldn't find a woman in their lifetime. And her mission was to counterattack for someone. Once the time was up, she would leave. Aha, sad. This is a pitiful woman who relies on men to survive. Sad woman, dying for a man. So sad. She doesn't have any sense of self. A bunch of women in the backyard fighting for men. Poppy was even more disdainful. She used a handkerchief to wipe the sweat on her face and neck. Ningxu didn't know what to say. The suppression and restraint of the era on women was tacitly acknowledged as such a way of survival. Who would be willing to suffer in silence? Don't use your luck to look down on other people's misfortune. Not all women could be a couple for life. Ancient times were crueler than imagined. These women in the backyard, if placed in the modern era, which one of them wasn't an elite in the office? Were the women groomed by the ancient nobles really just for men? Yes, you are the best. You can crush all the pedantic and wooden ancient people. Poppy ignored Ningxu and began to change her clothes. She took a few pieces of silver from the box. Poppy took men's clothes and her hair stood up. She looked like a handsome young master. Ningxu asked again. Are you going out? You should be going to pay respects to the D mother now. No matter what, you have to go see the D mu and apologize. Haha, apologize. What a joke. Poppy's face was full of disdain. Feng Qingqian, are you crazy? She has already bullied you and you still want to go up and apologize. You let that woman flaunt her seniority. Are you cheap? No wonder you live like this. Who can you blame for this? I really want to kick you out of my body. You might as well die like this. You have already shed all pretense of cordiality before going up to be beaten. You deserve to die cheap. You deserve to be killed. Poppy took the silver, climbed over the backyard wall, and went out. Cheap. Ningxu just smiled. He wasn't angry at all. Not everyone had the right to be willful. Even if you wanted to deal with someone, you had to stand on the side that was reasonable. Poppy didn't care about reputation, but she cared. The original owner cared. Especially with Feng Qingqian's delicate and sensitive mind, if she encountered such a thing, her life would be ruined. Especially since Feng Qingqian was engaged to a prince. When she married into the royal family, she would have to be careful. She represented the royal family's face. Without a good reputation, no matter what she did, she would be attacked. Wherever she went, there would be people pointing at her. Not everyone could meet a man who would tolerate and pamper her, who would always be right about everything she said. It was like a brainless yet powerful man. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.